All right, well, I'm going to call today's meeting to order. Jen, will you do a roll call, please?
Mike Delson, he is on PTO today. Tom McDonald.
Here.
Jennifer Finley. Here. Jim Molitaire. Carol Langford. She is on.
Here.
Danielle Matt.
Here.
Bing Matt. James Steele Jr.
Una.
Martin Charlo.
Present.
Len Tuteeth. Lenice Trahan.
All right, well, as always, we'll start the day off with a prayer. I'm going to ask James, would you do the honor for us, please?
Certainly. Kayasu Kili, we thank you for this day. We ask for your blessings upon our people, those that are ill and need special healing. We ask that you watch over our armed forces, our emergency personnel, particularly our tribal law enforcement, our fish and game officers, our folks that are fighting the fires. We ask that you would watch over our people today and watch over our council members, watch over our families. We ask for your special blessing today as we make decisions that affect all of our people and our homeland, Lemlemsh.
Thanks, James. Well, let's deal with our minutes first. We have minutes from August 6th for your review.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Abby, on page 1, and I guess if it's agreeable to council, I have the exact numbers for the grant awards, and so I'll send those to Abby for each entity that got the awards. Thank you.
All right, motion to approve with corrections.
Motion by Land to approve the August 6th council minutes with corrections. Second by James. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carol?
I'm in favor.
Okay, unanimous. All right, we have today's agenda. Is there any additions? We have 3 walk-ins, I believe. Bing has 1 item. James? Martin? Any other items?
How many did I give you right there?
You gave me 2 here and then 1 online, so 3?
Yes. And then I have another executive possibly.
Okay.
He still wanted the 10 full council, but I let him know there's 9. He might want to see the 9. So I have 2 executive. Those are the 2 last ones and then the ones you have right there. Nolan and then Vance.
Alrighty. Any other additions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve today's agenda with correction. Motion by James, second by Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? We'll call that unanimous. All right, let's take care of our first.
Nolan.
Nolan? Come on up, Nolan. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Heard you guys are pretty packed today, so we're going to keep it as quick as possible. But Here this morning, today, with some exciting news. The Bonneville Environmental Foundation was recently awarded a pretty large grant for the state of Montana. So it was roughly about $44 million. Out of that, roughly 25% was allocated to tribes across Montana. So the program itself is really focusing on serving low-income, disadvantaged communities, which for me is part of my passions. So with that, I was told you guys were made aware that I was recently accepted the position for the state of Montana's Solar for All Senior Program Manager.
Well, congratulations with that too. That's
So,
pretty cool.
so thank you. So yeah, I was just coming in today, letting you guys know we're going to be working really closely with the whole state, and then likewise all the tribes in the state of Montana. And the unique part about this program is you know, we're going in and we're working with folks, not necessarily telling them what they need to, you know, what they need to do, but understanding those needs and how Solar for All could, you know, bridge those gaps and be able to support all of those people through financial assistance, through technical assistance, and then also along the way, creating a lot of workforce development opportunities, which are really needed, you know, especially in Indian country where we don't have a lot of opportunities for on-the-job training simply because we don't have any renewable energy in our area. So with that, I'd like to introduce Claire also with the Bonneville Environmental Foundation.
Thank you, Nolan.
Good morning. Thank you very much for welcoming me onto your lands and for the opportunity to speak briefly with you. Nolan provided a nice introduction. I'd just like to add a little more context to that. First of all, thank you to you all, and in particular the Housing Authority, for supporting Bonneville Environmental Foundation's application for these awards. When the state of Montana determined that they did not feel like they had the capacity to apply for or administer these funds, we didn't want to see the money left on the table because we felt like there was such a great opportunity to bring solar to the folks who really need it the most. As Nolan said, we made a commitment within our application to ensure that we work directly with all of the tribes across Montana and be able to ask you all to support a participatory governance structure, which will help us determine how to administer the funds that we've set aside for the tribes. So we will Bonneville Environmental Foundation will act as the administrator for these funds, in part because of the complexity of EPA's new program. They don't really fully understand how to roll these funds out, and we're learning alongside them. So we're hoping to take administrative burden off by administering them, but looking to you all to support participation from whichever groups within your tribal government structure would be appropriate to help us identify homes. We have the opportunity to do individual homes, multifamily homes, and even community solar. And the exciting part about community solar is that has great opportunity to have broader scale impacts without, particularly to folks who don't own their own homes or perhaps don't have, aren't in a position where solar would work well for their homes. So there's a whole lot more for us to figure out. The program doesn't even start for our program until September, and then we'll have a full planning year to be able to sort out how to utilize these funds over the subsequent 4 years.
All right, that's pretty good. And Nolan, I mean, really good job. Of course,
We're thrilled, so thrilled to have him. He's going to have
my
such a-
expectations for this opportunity are high, of course, because I think we are the only reservation that nearly solely depends on Bonneville as our electrical provider. Is that correct, Zach? And so, yeah, the expectation would be high that we'd be a high participant in this funding. So, and the need is great. I really appreciate it. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Nolan, and thank you. I forgot your name already, sorry. I just wanted to touch base with you. I visited with a gentleman from the Spokane tribe, and they've been doing solar there with the Department of Energy grant. And they have, I think, about 150 homes and buildings that have been solarized, basically. some of their admin buildings and a lot of their homes in their housing development. And so the gentleman's name is Clyde Abrahamson, I think is his name. So if you haven't been in touch with them, be good to just visit with them, you know, maybe learn some potential ways of getting that accomplished here. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm familiar with Clyde.
Yeah,
actually,
okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, me and him kind of go way back. But their project, as you've seen, they were kind of forced to go renewable just because of the significant loss that they had in the fire with their grid. But the potential there is just amazing on what they were able to do. You know, to serve all their elders first and their admin buildings, their housing, and then also along the way, the jobs that they created. And I have to tell you, from my experience, working with Grid Alternatives and BEF in the last couple of years, I've had the opportunity to go out to be on the job through actual projects in Hart Butte and on the Blackfeet Community College. And the impact that it has on the youth that's there. I mean, those kids, I mean, as we know, it's rough. You know, we have problems with drug addiction, suicide, and then for the ability for a program to come in and create an on-the-job training situation where kids are going to be taught OSHA stuff, renewable energy, and then get a chance to get up on a roof or get up on a ladder and start turning wrenches, creating a community solar array for their community. It's life-changing for those kids. And as a father of, you know, 4, it takes a lot to, you know, grab somebody's interest. So for those kids to be interested in that, it creates an energy within inside of me that I want to go out and keep replicating that as much as I can, because if that could have changed the path for 2 or 3 of those kids, it's a win. I mean, in addition to providing renewable energy to the community. So things like that I'm particularly excited about. And then, you know, I've seen the work that Clyde has done, and I've been a huge fan of him for many years.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Nolan, and appreciate your time at housing. Sad to see you go. You left a big gap there, big shoes to fill. So yeah, it was always good to work with you and get to know you a little bit. So congratulations on your new opportunity, and I'm sure you're gonna go far. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a very hard decision for me. Yeah, it took me many hours going through it, but yeah, I appreciate everybody's support for the time I was there and all the great things that we've done. Thank you.
Well, once again, I just want to say I'd love to see solar panels at every tribal residence. And we know rates go up from Bonneville that are passed through to us. We have our own needs for our utility to do infrastructure maintenance and improvement. Rates will go up. And so having that offset of solar, it can't be, you know, overstated how important that would be for the low income and majority of the tribal members, because we don't keep up with the people moving here, the demand that's happening. So we get hit different ways, and the cost of living keeps going up, not because of us, but because of everybody coming here. And the demand goes up because of everybody coming here. And so we get kind of a double whammy. So having an opportunity to provide, you know, a break on our power bills in any way, shape, or form is very welcomed. And to think of solar as a renewable energy source that should be out there everywhere, it's fantastic. So I appreciate the program. And Nolan, thanks for stepping up. And again, people were complaining that you were leaving, you know. We heard it. So that's good. They're lucky they have you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Any other comments? No? Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Your next open walk-in is Vance.
Vance? Mr. Vance, come on up. Spin the wheel. No, just joking. That's quick. Push the button on, get the red light on your mic.
There you go. Is that better?
That works, Vance.
So really quick, I'm just gonna get right into it since there's a lot of business today. I was approached by some teachers out of a small school up in Kalispell, Lakeside area, and I'm acquainted with I'm acquainted with that school, and they had asked me last week. They said we have some students coming up, and they want to spend a few days in the Mission Valley, but their goal is for community service projects. And they had a few individuals lined up that they were going to help. I think one was cleaning their field out or something like that and building a new fence for their horses, I believe. And they had a couple more projects that they're doing right now. But these teachers had asked me if I would give them a little presentation, a little cultural presentation about the history of the people, the tribal people here. And I said, sure. And then they asked if I could possibly give them a little nature walk or hike or whatever. And I said, well, I'll have to see about that. It's a group of about 20, I think 22 students, college age. And I guess that's what I'm here for. And I was advised by NRD. I went to them first and they said, it sounds good, but just go to council. So that's why I'm here.
So you're asking for the day that you host them with your nature walk and presentation to waive the permit requirement, get a group permit, free-use permit?
Yeah, I was going to ask them to pay the fee. It's $80 per person, but being that they're leaving Saturday morning, I was hoping we might not even. It's 50-50 if we're even gonna get the hike or walk in. I'm doing the presentation this afternoon up in Polson. And so I kind of felt funny having them pay this big fee for an hour or two, just being honest. But anyway, it's up to you guys.
You know where you're gonna go?
The only two locations I had in mind was the Cedar location up above Mission Falls, that area to there, or Schwartz Lake, that area. Yeah. And me and my sister are going to accompany, obviously, this group, and yeah,
I'd recommend Swartz Lake. So
Yeah.
It's not quite in the wilderness area. So
yeah.
You wouldn't exceed the group size. Anybody make a motion to approve? Motion by Leonard, second by Jimmy, to approve the basically half-day request to go to Swartz Lake with your group. I'll make it specific. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other discussion? See none, all those in favor? Carol? I'm assuming Carol's for it, so unanimous.
Yes, I'm for it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Vance.
Thank you, guys.
Keep up good work.
Always.
All right. Next up, we have executive.
Yes, Shauna Freelander, an executive.
Okay. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Got a couple issues here, and biggest issue is going to come in to us next week. And it's the stock waters, people up there in RV that are really concerned about the stock water being shut off in September. And nobody's come to let them know that's going to happen yet. I said, well, they were supposed to have a meeting with you people to let you know that this was going to happen. I said, but it sounds like they haven't yet, and so there's quite a bunch from RLE is going to be in here next week to approach the council and talk to them about this. So I think if we could get a hold of Seth and whoever else he's got up there to be here so he can inform them what's going on. But it's going to be a hell of a mess. I'm telling you right now.
Can I, Jen,
Um,
can I do the
other issue is, I had a call from Brian
It's all
Miller.
pages.
And he's stating that they haven't got a lease or anything from, Rebel Land yet on that property over there on the, west side. And he was wanting to know what the holdup was. I said, well, I didn't know. I said, but I could check with them and see if they're working on that yet. But, he'd like to know if how many acres they're gonna be able to get out of this or, and, so they can go ahead and move on with the deal.
Thanks, Big. We'll check on that. That's an easy one there. But, my understanding for the stock water was that they were going to prepare and offer up the opportunity for wells to be put in. And, that hasn't happened, and that is a problem. Because that's the normal protocol for that. Okay. Jimmy, do you have something? No? Okay. Same thing? Okay. James?
Yeah, just wanted to report I did participate in the the listening session for the PL 280 with the BIA and such yesterday at, I think it was from 11 from 10 to noon, I think it was, or 11 to noon. It was a couple hours anyway. Pretty much went verbatim as to what the comments were in the email from Katie.
Thank you, James. Based on the comments, you did a great job, as we would expect you to do. So thank you. With that, we'll go to our first scheduled agenda item. And Tammy, that's you.
That's me. Okay. I better move this a little closer so you can hear me. So the first one is going to be short and sweet, hopefully. It's just updating an old resolution from 2004. It was resolution 04174, appointing members to the fetal infant child mortality review team for Lake County. We have been operating under the old resolution for 20 years, and it's worked very well. But the old resolution has specific names of individuals rather than just departments. And all but one of them, no, actually all five of them no longer are working for the tribe. And so I've got with me Emily Colomita, she's the director for Lake County Public Health, and Leanne Johnson, who is the FCMR coordinator for Lake County. And they're just here for support or answer any questions if you have any. And so the updated resolution basically is the same wording. We are required by the federal guidelines to review all deaths from fetal age of 20 weeks through age 17. And then they have added additionally some maternal deaths if we have a postpartum death within a year after a child is born. And so we have a pretty good team, good representation from both county and tribal agencies. And so we're just wanting to make sure that we cover all of our bases, and the state is asking for an update as well. And so we have listed in here to continue to have representation from offering it to tribal law enforcement. We know they're very short-staffed and not able to attend very often, but our tribal health medical director, the public health nurses, Head Start representation, behavioral health representation, a tribal attorney, and social services division manager. So a lot of our cases we review have a history of either CPS or foster care involvement at some point. And so we would just like to request approval on the updated resolution.
Any questions? Motion by Jennifer to approve the resolution, approving the fetal infant child maternal mortality review team for Lake County. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, so do you have statistics? Are there, I'm imagining that the infant mortality rate is higher among Native populations. And
Yes.
so do you have those statistics for Lake County? How much higher is it on the Flathead Reservation? And what are some of the main causes?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I could get them for you. But I do know that it is, significantly higher, particularly taking into consideration the proportion of Native Americans to non-Native Americans in the county. I think the primary causes, gosh, it really varies. A lot of sleep-related deaths that are often, they're unable to determine if it was SIDS or what, so it's just undetermined. There's been some motor vehicle accidents, drug-related. What else for infants? Some accidents, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
but- Yeah,
So I get, the reason I'm asking is because I think if we, because I'm a trained doula, so I have an interest in prenatal care and, I'm not having any more babies. But I just think it's important that the babies that are born in our community have the best chance of thriving and being healthy and surviving.
mhm.
And I would think if we know the causes, if we know that we have a higher infant mortality rate, which I knew, which I suspected, if we have a higher infant mortality rate, then, and we know some of the causes, and if some of those causes are preventable, and I think it would be good if tribal health developed more aggressive programs to educate people on safe sleeping practices. And, I know that tribal health gives out car seats, but, I would just always want us to do as much as we can to make sure that our babies survive.
Yes.
And
And that is the ultimate, the goal of the team is to determine which cases were preventable and then to come up with interventions.
yeah, and
So
I'm
that is
glad,
our purpose.
yeah, and I'm glad we're working with the county too, because I see that as an opportunity maybe for some partnership to educate people on, maybe even like quality prenatal care. Are there things that you can do before your baby's born? And, I think postpartum depression is like very prevalent to non-tribal and tribal. And so I'm always going to be interested in everything having to do with childbirth and babies. So I'm glad this team exists and hopefully something preventative can come out of it for the tribe. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Danielle?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and I have one more.
Okay,
So let's see, where did it go, Jen? Oh, she's not there. Let's see. Okay, let me go up.
the grant?
Yep, the grant. They call it a grant, but I don't know that it's necessarily a grant because there's not a full formal application for it. The Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council started the child health measures screenings in 2007. And Tribal Health participated in them from 2010 to 2014. And under the diabetes program. And we operated under Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Council's IRB at that time. And since then, we've had, some things change and, well, COVID hit and nobody was doing any screenings or any of that kind of stuff. And now we have the opportunity that Rocky Mountain Tribal Epidemiology Center through has the opportunity to award $27,500 to any of the tribes that are wanting to participate in these screenings. And the funding is allows us to purchase equipment that we would use for the screening, and like privacy curtains and whatnot to make sure that everything is confidential and secure. And then it allows us to use the remaining balance to reward the schools, so that we can assist them with playground equipment or PE equipment. We can use some of that funding to buy incentives for each individual student who participates. And what we've used to do in the past was give swim passes to the kids, and they could use that at Currents or Splash Montana as kind of a little reward for them to participate. And then the schools get that added, you know, they'll have a say. We'll meet with them, and they can determine what they would like to spend their money on. We won't give them a blank check. We'll order all of the equipment for them and provide it. And as it works out, once we purchase everything and do everything, each of the schools, right now it sits at $4,100 a piece, but I overestimated in my budget, like the cost of the equipment, just because I never know how much it's going to be and some of the other stuff. But looking at it, I think with our discount through Tribal Health, each school should be able to get over $5,000 in equipment that they can use for their PE programs or just, you know, playground equipment.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Thanks, Tammy. You said that individual people can get things like students who
Mhm.
participate can get something.
Mhm.
Would basketball shoes be part of that? I know that good basketball shoes are really expensive
Mhm.
and, you know, for some families
That's,
spending
you know,
100
we
or
haven't thought about that, but that is definitely something we can look at. The Rocky Mountain Epidemiology Center, it's pretty much open to us and left up to us on what we use the funding for the schools. And that's definitely something we could look at.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some tribal member families. I mean, I know,
Mhm.
I don't wear shoes like that, but having a kid in basketball, those are so expensive.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
you know, that might be a hardship for some families
Yep.
to
Yeah, we
spend
can
$150 on.
definitely look
Yeah.
at that. And we, you know, we are looking, we had, through the IRB process, we offered it to all schools on the reservation. And only 4 schools opted to participate in it. Arlee, St. Ignatius, Charlo, and in Cusum. And in the past, when we were doing that, we had Arlee and Cusum, Dixon, and St. Ignatius participated. And this year Dixon has a different program coming in to do their screenings for them each year. But Ronan and Polson were not interested, and we offered it to Two Eagle as well and didn't get any interest from them. And it's real basic screenings. We go in and assess height, weight, waist and hip circumference so that we can calculate body mass index. And we assess their blood pressure so we can look at potential cardiac risk and looking at their obesity risk with the measurements. And then we look at the back of their neck for an area of darkening called acanthosis, which is an early indicator for diabetes. And so nothing invasive. We originally, when we started this program in 2010, we were doing blood sugar screenings as well, but we've moved away from that. So nothing we do is invasive. We did submit our application to the IRB and they did approve it. And then we learned a couple weeks ago, I think it was a couple weeks ago, Matea's, I think here, that the process had changed and the IRB now is the RRB. And so I've provided all of the information to Matea that we had in our application and everything that she's requested. And so we're hoping that we can move forward with the resolution, working with the tribal leaders or epidemiology center. They do the analysis of the data for us and then send us back de-identified information, breaking down the risks of obesity by grade level in each school. And, you know, some of the schools in the past have used that to apply for grants for more expensive playground equipment. They've used that to help determine, bring back PE class and afternoon recess, because like Arlee went to a 4-day school week and they cut the afternoon recess and they cut PE to like once or twice a week. And we were able to use those numbers to get their recess back and get their PE time increased so that we get these kids moving. And so the schools really value that information. And so we're hoping that council will approve our resolution. And then we'll work with Matea and the RRB going forward.
Sounds good, Tammy. Maybe you could suggest to Ronan and Arlie, you might get some skateboards,
Oh,
kids,
yeah, definitely.
Pablo.
Pablo.
Anyway,
I think like just athletic shoes, like I'm a runner, that's what
Mhm.
well, not now,
I
but.
know one year, my wife and I helped pay for tennis shoes for the, Tooga River School basketball teams, because they didn't have enough money. They were
Yeah.
sharing shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I was a runner, that's one thing I learned to invest in is I never skimped out on running shoes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna go out and run 7 miles, you need to have good shoes.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're expensive.
We have a motion by Mark to approve the resolution to submit to the Rocky Mountain Leaders Council for the grant from Indian Health Services. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You all have a wonderful afternoon, rest of your day.
We will. All right, Katie, you're up next.
We're on. Pesquex Kisukiyokit Travel Council. Thank you for having us today. I wanted to give the opportunity. Actually, Lolo National Forest had requested some time with Tribal Council this morning. So I really give applaud to all folks in our Forest Service who have been reaching out, having extra interest in getting to know Tribal Council, getting to know executive staff members, and even our resource specialists to continue to make those meaningful relationships. And so these are just a few faces of folks that I will continuously be bringing in, hopefully in the future, while we're utilizing our good neighbor authorities with all of our forests, that these would be some individuals who'd be coming back with some future projects with CSKT. And so today is just kind of a meet and greet. Each individual has different, no pun intended, neck of the woods in the Forest Service. And so these great folks are going to be introducing themselves, letting you know what they've got going on in their forest, possibly some future, what they want to do in the forest. But most of it, I think, is just continuing to build those relationships, making sure that we have meaningful co-stewardship, collaboration. And so I'm just going to go ahead and hand it over to these folks, and we'll get to know each other a little bit more. Thank you.
Sounds good. Welcome, everybody.
Please let me know if you can hear me adequately. But good morning, Tribal Council, and thank you very much for your time this morning. So my name's Chris Gauger. I'm one of the district rangers on the Lolo National Forest, and I'd like to start with just why we're here. Katie did cover it very succinctly, but really we are your neighbors, and the Lolo encompasses much of the land around the reservation. Being that the Lolo is the closest in proximity, it felt really appropriate to get to know our neighbors a little bit better. It's something I encourage of my employees on my district, and to be good neighbors as well as good stewards. And so this is part of me indicating appropriate ways to do that. Also, why we are here is because of a document that the Forest Service has come out with recently, the Tribal Action Plan, and in that it does indicate that among other things, we are expected to make introductions as district rangers, and we are encouraged to engage with tribal leaders. So it's very much a two-pronged approach as to why we reached out to introduce ourselves. So in the interest of introducing ourselves, as I mentioned, we do have 5 districts. You see 4 rangers here in front of you, but we actually have 6 on the Lolo. The 5 districts that we have are mine, the 9 Mile District, the Missoula District, the Sealy Lake Ranger District, the Superior District, and the Plains Thompson Falls Districts. I'm not going to introduce them for them. I'll let them do their talking, but I do want to say that Quinn Carver, the district ranger on the Sealy Lake Ranger District, did express his regret for not being able to come out today. He does have some family medical issues going on right now. And Quinn has a little bit of a track record. Most of you are probably familiar with him. He has a big personality, so I think he's probably had the opportunity to meet several of you in the past. Speaking for myself, again, my name's Chris, and I'm about a 20-year federal employee with multiple different agencies. I've lived many of the corners of the continental United States, and about 2.5 years ago, I landed here in western Montana. I'm paraphrasing my wife when I say that we both couldn't be much happier with where we ended up. On a credentialing note, I've got my undergrad from Penn State University in humanities, and my grad school comes from the University of Idaho in natural resources and a little bit of wildfire ecology and technology management. I think that succinctly sums up my personal history. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have, but I'd like to transition a little bit too about my district. So the 9 Mile District encompasses about 350,000 acres of the Lolo, and it's kind of unique in that it is also the historic remount and ranger station. It probably doesn't need any introduction to any of the folks here. We're very proud of it. I'm very proud of the folks that work there. And of the folks that do work there, we've got a robust recreation program. That recreation program is home of the Northern Region Pack String. You've probably seen the green semi, but we do projects all over the region, all across forests and grasslands. We also have the 9 Mile Wildland Training Center. We teach a lot of historic outdoorsman type skills, everything from axemanship to cross country to cast iron cooking on a good year. And we've got a really robust program. It's fully staffed at the moment, which is something we haven't been able to say in a while. But a lot of those traditional outdoor skills come from trainings there. So we influence a lot of other agencies as well as the Forest Service with our trainings. And also on the district, we do have a robust fire shop. We have a very young staff there, but they've actually got quite an impressive array of credentialing for their age. Really fully staffed with the exception of maybe one position that's out on a detail right now. And that was also origin of the wanting to make these introductions was we had an early meeting this year with some of our neighbors and partners, Mr. Ron Swaney and Mr. Shane Hendrickson, I believe, still sitting in the audience. In advance of fire season, we wanted to sit down and the recommendation came from him that if we hadn't had the opportunity to make these introductions, that we go ahead and do that. So thank you, Shane. I think I'll leave it there and I'll pass it to my neighbor to the west, Abbey Lane, the Superior Ranger District Ranger.
Thank you, Chris.
Good morning, Tribal Council. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, he already introduced me, but my name is Abbey Lane and I am his neighbor just to the west, based out of Superior. I've been in my position for almost 2 years. So still getting the hang of it and learning the places and the people and all of that. I am a native Montanan and grew up in Helena and attended the University of Montana and got a degree in forest management. You may know that the western part of the Lolo does grow trees pretty well. So we have a very robust timber program with 13 active timber sales. And it's kind of that inland empire, you know, with all 12 conifer species growing and all of that. So it's a really unique place in western Montana. And then I'm going to pass it to my neighbor, Curtis, in Plains.
Thank you, Abby. You also grow huckleberries pretty well. And yeah, You can tell me your secret spots later.
Good morning, Tribal Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and thank you. I'm the new ranger. I'm the junior ranger of the group here. I just recently transferred from the National Park Service. I have a long career in the federal government as well as private. I'm very happy to be at the Plains Thompson Ranger District. It's a really nice place and it's a little bit away from I guess the busy part of Montana. I'm still learning. I've only been on the job for about 6 months, and much of that has just been sort of chaos. So I'm still trying to learn about what's going on and develop sort of an understanding of where we're going. I did want to communicate that both my fire management officer and assistant fire management officer said one of the things that they really appreciate is the positive relationship they have with the tribal fire crews and fire staff, and just how necessary it is to continue that collaboration and make sure that, you know, because we share such a long borders, that we just communicate effectively, and they just wanted to say they supported that very much. Additionally, I do have to bring up the fact that that the Forest Service, I think, is really going through some serious changes with, you know, with budget and personnel. It does impact a lot of our operations on the ground. I think over the next year, it's going to be somewhat difficult to understand what our essential functions are and how we can improve those services that we provide to the public. And so I hope that in the future that some of these things may be difficult to address, but that if there are conversations that they're positive in nature, that's essentially perspective. So, and with that, I wanted to introduce my neighbor, Sean.
You also have huckleberries.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, Tribal Council. My name is Sean O'Connor. I'm the Deputy District Ranger in Missoula. Chris mentioned that there's 6 of us as a ranger team on the Lolo National Forest. My supervisor, Crystal Stone Cipher, she's the district ranger in Missoula. It's a very complex district, and that's one of the reasons that we have sort of a dual management team in place there to help with that workload. So that's why I'm there. And she couldn't make it today. We have maybe you guys are familiar with the Miller Peak fire. It's an incident currently burning on our district. We are getting towards the end of that. You know, the fire activity is very low. Not a lot of resources on it currently, but there is still a workload there, and she's sort of managing that today, and regrets that she couldn't be here. I'll mention a couple of things about her. She's still fairly new to the job. She's in it about 2.5 years. Really, as a leadership team, we're all fairly new to our positions. But her background is in research. She was a scientist with the Rocky Mountain Research Station for many, many years before she moved into National Forest Systems lands management. So she has a very unique perspective that she brings to our team that I really appreciate. As for myself, I'm a native Idahoan. I grew up in southern Idaho. I went to the University of Idaho as well. I graduated with a degree in forest resources. This is my second stint in Montana and Missoula. I previously worked for the region back in about 5 years ago, actually with Abby in a different group. But I also would like to mention that I've actually worked for a tribe before. I worked for the Spokane tribe. That was actually my first job when I graduated college, and I really enjoyed that experience. It was very educational for me and a valuable part of my background and experience. So just wanted to mention that. Moving on to the Missoula Ranger District, you know, we're also bordering the tribal lands, and it's a very complex district, as I mentioned before. Recreation's kind of the name of the game with Missoula. There's a lot of the community members and folks in Missoula that spend a lot of time recreating on our lands, and we have 3 major recreation areas because of that: Blue Mountain, Patty Canyon, and the only national recreation area in Region 1, Rattlesnake NRA. We value the partnerships that we have with our district, and that's one of the reasons for our visit today that Chris mentioned is trying to strengthen one of those partnerships with the tribe. We also, one of the other groups I'd like to highlight that that I think is very unique and important in our district is the Missoula Front Country Coalition. That's a group of not only the Lolo National Forest and the Missoula Ranger District, but the DNRC, Montana DNRC, the county, and the city of Missoula, just working to find solutions to help mitigate the pressures that recreation kind of inherently comes with recreation in a kind of urban area. So really appreciate our partnerships. So the other project works, the other projects that we work on are typically focused on wildland urban interface and fuels reduction. So that's a big part of our workload, and we have a very robust fire management staff, and I know they have good relationships with their tribal counterparts, Shane being one of those, and really just want to keep that and going and just establish some additional relationships at the leadership level. So appreciate your time.
Thank
And
you.
Yes, thank you. And we're happy to take any questions if you guys have any of us.
Questions from council? Comments? Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and I want to thank you all for taking the time to come and visit with us. As many of you know, that is our Aboriginal homeland hundreds of years ago. So it's really good to see that you keep a good working relationship with Katie. We're just very proud of Katie of the work that she does and protecting our interests in our Aboriginal grounds. One of the hot issues that this council really keys in on are mining projects. In today's day and age, we have a lot of these huge companies that are coming after our mineral resources, trying to change laws and regulations on how they can obtain those. So it's extremely critical that we maintain our relationship with you all as we address these, because as we all know, mining companies, they just care about one thing, and when they get that, they're going to walk away. And majority of the time, we're stuck with that mess and that pollution and those contaminants that just will affect us for years and years. So we look forward to working with you and strengthening our relationship with the all the ranger districts, and we once again just very glad that you guys came and took the time to meet with us. These types of relationships with the tribes are extremely important. So once again, thank you.
Thank you, Len. I too want to thank you for coming in. Of course, Len mentioned, and of course you all know, this is our homeland. Not nearly all of Montana is. But the Lolo National Forest doesn't get much tighter than that, the Flathead National Forest. And so when we talk about your different ranger districts, we have our tribal memberships upon your landscape all the time. And our reserved treaty rights are there for the long-term, ability for our tribal members to sustain themselves. And so most of it is Aboriginal hunting and fishing and gathering. So I bring up huckleberries because it's huckleberry season, right? So it is, for us to hunt and fish on the forest landscape, and that needs to be a priority for the National Forest because that is a reserved treaty. And there's no other law higher than the treaty on the entire landscape. So we need to be able to make sure that we're not, under your due diligence, not displaced from the land that we have this protectable interest to and long-term standing to. So if there's huckleberry area there, it's been important for generations and generations and generations of thousands of generations. We want to make sure that we sustain that in perpetuity for our membership. And that's your due diligence that we hope that you would maintain, is that quality of sustainment that the landscape provides that's there, whether it's moose, elk, deer, or whatever it might be, is critical to our membership. We don't have the same average income as the average Missoulian does, or that other person living in the national forest. Some of your landscapers, some pretty poor folks out there. And, but our reservation is the same way. And so when you talk about gathering and hunting and fishing, it is really critically important to our membership. I can't overstate how valuable that is to us. So, any project that you have that's related to that, and of course, we always talk about fire, and that's a big thing, and it absolutely is. What happens here affects you, what happens there affects us. Fire doesn't know a boundary. And the issues that cause fires really don't know the boundaries. So that recreational activity, human-caused fires are the biggest detriment that we have out there right now. And if we can control that, we can do a good job to give our chance to adapt to climate change in a better fashion. But if we allow human-caused fires to run amok, that's going to be totally devastating to all of us. And so really that's under your watch as far as your different district rangers, and completely, especially when you have a lot of outdoor recreation. But all those things in consideration affect all of us. And so as you move forward, if there's any projects related to those, subsistence, fire, the good neighbor authority, anything like that we can work with, I think Katie's is there to try to troubleshoot that, try to find a way that we can work together. We can provide that assistance. We can offer up what resources we have to be capable to do that. I know there's always dwindling resources. So with that, it's always been that way, right? More people have to do more things. Your title just got bigger. Well, that means that you need to work with us, and we need to work with you, because it's a two-way street, and really important. So thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it, and know the hard work you have for you, being a former Forest Service employee, recovering Forest Service employee. Anyway, thank you for coming in. Any other comments from anybody? Finish up with Katie.
Yeah, no, I just, again, thank you guys for, putting us in your guys' schedule, and really applaud these guys for making the trip here to Pablo to meet with you all. These are some of the individuals that we'll continue to communicate with, and re-educating, realigning a lot of our goals. And a big part of that not only is to maintain our natural forest, but it's also our big push, utilizing my position, is making sure that we're getting our tribal members back on the landscape. And so some of these individuals are some that are, we're going to come together. We're going to be thinking outside of the box, making sure that we're putting our best foot forward, and making that engagement open and inviting for tribal membership to continue to utilize some of these places that younger generations probably have no idea where 9 Mile is and Rattlesnake is. And so I think as we continue to move forward and working really closely with forest supervisors and letting it trickle down and making these friendships with these folks here, the district rangers, as we'll continue to have more come through, I think it's just going to really kind of open the curtain to really all of the opportunities that we have out in front of us. Opportunities have always been there. We've had some folks who've, have always utilized that, but, it's just making it more inviting and more of a friendship where we can all enjoy those locations together. So other than that, I think Vice Chair, you put it, just beautifully, of how we're going to continue to go on. And so again, thank you guys for your time, and you will see me with more Forest Service folks coming in.
Thank you, Katie. Just want to add one thing. It's so important what Katie just said, returning to the landscape. It's such a powerful thing, because you think about our people being here for tens of thousands of years and being displaced sometimes forcibly, and not being able to return to places that were just part of innate, use, basically, and feeling, and then not do that, and then lose that for some generations. There's like this missing element. There's this missing thing for self-esteem for our membership and our people. And that's that restoration of going back to the landscape, going back to areas that been there for generations and generations and generations. And lots of those places our generations have forgotten or lost that connection, or that continuity. And so restoring that is really critical. It really is critical. And we think that's a win for everybody, because when we bring back the language to the landscape and the people see that, then there's a better understanding of what's there and how to live in balance with that landscape. when we bring our people back and we see different uses that are done there, how you can treat the landscape with better respect and how you live in balance. Any of those things that showcase that actually helps everybody that lives and uses that landscape. So I really want to recommend that we think about that. Thank you, Katie, for reminding me of that. James, do you have something? Okay, Martin.
I just want to thank you. I'll be going down to Patty Canyon and Blue Mountain this weekend to play disc golf. So thank you for allowing that to happen. You know, the Fort Missoula is always good, and it always is fun to think about. Like, you know, I'm going back there in a very non-traditional way, but those are our lands, and that doesn't get lost. You know, that, you know, Fort Missoula used to be a huge Bitterroot, you know, area, and picking all of our resources there. And so it's kind of fun to think back to our history there and our connection. And even if we're throwing plastic discs around it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Like to offer any comments from the superintendent, Shane? Another recovering Forest Service employee.
Yes, Squext, and thanks for the opportunity. I really have very little to add, and other than I appreciate the Forest Service being here. I hope this is the start of many other rangers coming from our Aboriginal treaty area, not just from the Lolo, but other forests all the way out to the Gallatin and Custer. And they have a difficult job, as they know. And you talked about the trust management. I've learned exactly what that is in this position. The fiduciary trust management is a difficult thing to do, particularly with the multiple use agency. So I appreciate the struggles that you will have, that you go through now and that you're going to go through with future projects. But what's imperative to all of that, and part of the role of the superintendent, is to ensure that my sister agencies are consulting with the tribes. And I mean that in both the big C and the little c perspective, that the little c consultation with that staff to staff, the TIPOs to the archaeologists, the fish biologists to the fish biologists. But as equally important is the large C consultation, which is from you guys, from rangers to this council, is the only way that official consultation happens. The small C consultation is program review, program coordination, which is imperative to how we do business. But to meet the executive orders and the laws that are on the books, that true consultation happens between line officers and the tribal administration, which is this council sitting here. So it's just a friendly reminder that that's how we do business. That's how we're mandated to do business as one federal entity to the next. And by law, we're governed to do that. And then I'll also throw a tidbit of information out there. There is someone in the Forest Service had developed a phone app called Tribal Relations, that if you don't have that on your cell phone, go to your Play Store or wherever you get your apps from and type in Tribal Relations, and there will be a Forest Service app that you can dump onto your phone that has easy access to all of the executive orders, tribal related federal laws that will help you through your coordination and cooperation with tribes. But thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you all for coming in. Chris et al., thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Expect you again soon. Or we'll see you out there in the forest. Even better.
A quick 5-minute break, just
Okay.
5 though, because we're running a little behind.
All right. 5 minutes.
Can we go into executive?
And then we'll move into executive, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes. Executive. Go ahead, James.
Make a motion approving the establishment of tribal opioid settlement endowment, opioid settlement endowment fund. Motion to approve.
Motion by James, second by Martin. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's really critical that this is the kind of information we need to get into Charcusta ASAP. There's been questions about it in the past, and I think just to keep keep the membership updated on how we're moving forward with this, so.
Great idea. Can you make sure that happens, Greg?
Yes, sir. I'll
Thank you,
distribute something today for council's view and we'll get it going.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Carol? You're abstaining? Okay. One abstention, Carol. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Greg, can you stop screen share? And can we go back into executive, please?
All right, back in executive? Okay. No, go ahead, Shane.
Yeah, good afternoon, council. We have, the State Tribal Relations, interim committee that, we did some touring with earlier and, they're gonna have lunch with you all. I really wanted them to have the opportunity to kind of just chat informally during lunch and then we'll have an hour to chat, right after that. And, towards the end of the hour, there'll be about 10 or 15 minutes, where, Joe Durgalo has a statement just to read on, healthcare and Medicaid expansion needs, which just has like a request in it. So, yeah, so outside of that, I'll just have their IT folks come in and set up, because they have to set up for their meeting, when they meet with you formally. And then, from there, we'll just let everyone eat and hang out, and then we'll get the meeting going when council's ready to, around 1.
Okay, James?
Suggestion, who are the two eldest tribal leaders in the group?
Yeah, yeah.
Sharon and
Yeah, so, that document I gave you guys has the list of all the legislators that are in the group, but the ones that are actually here today, Frank Smith, from Poplar is here, Susan Weber, from Blackfeet, Jason Small from Northern Cheyenne, Joe Reed from Ronan, Dan Solomon.
What I was gonna suggest is have our tribal leaders that are part of the committee come through first to eat,
Okay,
to get their food first
sure.
and
I'll
pray.
defer to you guys on that, yeah. Oh, prayer, who's up for doing a prayer?
Shane,
Shane is? All right, Shane.
you're nominated.
Shane, you can do the prayer for us.
Yeah, I love how every time someone's like, we'll do it, we'll have Bing do it, and then he's like, what? You know, we'll have to defer to someone else. I know.
We're the youngest guy.
I know, and I think
reverse.
Jennifer's the one who always tells me Bing, so, all right, well, we'll, get lunch set up and IT folks and get going.
Quick question for Shane, please, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Oh, got a
Oh,
question.
yeah, Danielle?
Hey, when I was reading through the packet on page 15, it says no remote participation, so no Zoom option for this. So does that mean we're gonna close out our session here until 3:45 or?
Technically, you guys could record if you want, but we don't need to. It's council's meeting. For them, it's technically their session. And so the way they have it set up is during their intern meetings, when they're set up at the Capitol, they have Zoom and then people can like testify or give public comment. So for this, they're just recording it, their meeting, and then they'll post it online when they're done. So for the hour segment that we have with them. And then they have a little bit of extra business to do. Usually they have like bill concepts or bill ideas or other business that they're looking into with the committee. And so right after you guys are done, they'll just meet for, I think they said 30 minutes to an hour right after. It's there, yeah. So from
I thought it was council and them from 1 to.
2, yep, 1 to 2, and then from there they just have their own.
Are they gonna meet in there? So then we can go on.
They can, yeah. They'll just have to move their IT folks over to give them time to go set up over across the way. So, yeah.
Martin?
I just wanted to make the motion about the 2 culture committee directors and 2 elders being on the election committee. Just codify that, so easier on the staff that are running it.
Oh, Sure, I thought that was already, but it says already did that.
Enrollment committee.
So add the enrollment advisory committee, the two cultural directors and two elders from each committee?
Yeah,
Okay.
we discussed that, but we never actually codified anything.
Okay, is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Is there a second? Second by Len? Any further discussion? See none, all is in favor? Carol? Unanimous, all right.
One last thing, it is boat inspector appreciation week this week. So if you're going through a valley, bring up some soda or smile.
All right,
Kind words.
throw a bottle of water at them. All right, well, we're gonna break for, oh, go ahead, Jen.
And Katie wanted to know if council is available Thursday, August 22nd from 1 to 5. We'll have executive meeting in council for the PL 280 strategy planning meeting. Anybody on travel that day or will that?
I'm gonna be on leave, August 22nd.
I think about it, let me know.
Okay, at
Good.
5?
Yeah, from 1 to 5.
Oh, I'll be
It's gonna
here.
be the afternoon session that day.
Okay, I'll be here.
Okay. And Shane had another.
Yeah, I'm just, want to check in again on, so I think the plan was for them to just kind of stay set up after the initial meeting. I know that's going to be a little bit of time where council won't be meeting with them. I just checked in with them. It takes them about an hour just to set up their IT stuff, so I don't think it would probably work. So I wanted to see if we could actually keep it as is for them to be able to meet temporarily for that other business timeframe that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
We'll have to, we'll work around it. You bet.
all right, yeah, okay.
Thanks. Yep. You can? Okay, Len will do a prayer for the meal. So we'll break for our tribal relations luncheon and meeting.
Pardon me, should we invite folks in for it? Okay.
Did you guys want to finish your guys' afternoon thing with econ development back there on Zoom? And you guys all sit at those tables, we'll get that set up that, and then they can stay in here, and then you guys will be done earlier than 5? Yeah, okay, we'll do that.
Chairman and members of council, all have to say in one person. Before I get started, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to give us today, we give thanks for your blessings. Grateful for the beautiful valley that you put. Grateful for the water that you put in. My Father, today we ask that you be with us today. Help us all. As you work for us. In our hearts and our minds. Help us. Good ideas that we forward together. My Father, today as we gather, able to break bread together, fast food, all the people that prepared that meal. My Father, today I pray for safe travel. Yeah. Hey guys, let me back guest first. Senator Small, I think we're all reconvened and sure meeting, so I'm gonna turn it over to you and get going. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here with us.
All right, thank you. No, we appreciate it. I guess we'll officially kick this off. This is August 8th, 2024. We're at State Tribal Relations Committee with CSKT. And I guess the first thing we can do is, would you like to take roll?
Vice Chair Running Wolf,
Excuse?
Senator Solomon,
Here.
Senator Fox,
Excused.
Senator Weber. Here. Representative Brockman,
Excused.
Representative Reed,
Here.
Representative Sheldon Galloway,
Excused.
Representative Smith,
Here.
Representative Stewart Paragoy. Here. Chair Small.
Here. All righty, thank you. You mind if we offer a prayer also? Sharon, would
Please
you?
do.
Thank you. All right, we do a brief introduction, starting with Representative Reed.
My name's Joe Reed out of Ronan, and I've lived here all my life representing House District 93, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Sharon Stewart Paragoy, Crow Tribal member. Just good to be here. House District 42.
Good afternoon, Senator Dan Solomon, Senate District 47, resident of West Pablo, so kind of know where this place is.
Right on, Senator Jason Small, Senate District 21, I have the Crow and Northern Cheyenne reservations.
Good afternoon. Senator Susan Weber, Senate District 8, Blackfeet and CSKT.
Good morning, it's Frank Smith, District 31, which covers Fort Peck Reservation. I've been here before, and I hope we can get something out of it. Thank you.
All right, excellent, excellent. So as far as things on our agenda today, we don't have anything hard and fast. Really, we're kind of just gonna listen into what your guys' thoughts and concerns were, and then, if there's anything that you guys don't bring up, maybe we'll touch back and offer up some information that you don't have.
Thank you, Senator. I'll certainly ask my fellow council members if they have any specific items they want to bring forward. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council and distinguished representatives. Thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us today. It's always appreciated. There's many issues out there that we need to discuss, and I know one of them that's been on the top of my list for some time is some of the items listed in our water settlement. One of the problems I have is the state land exchange. Okay? We've been having, discussions with the state and federal, officials for some time now. As you all are aware, there is a designated time frame to get this completed. But one of the issues that kind of stopped us in our tracks was that the state will not release mineral rights to these parcels that are located on the reservation. We don't feel that taking ownership of a severed parcel, it's going to really limit us on how we're going to be able to manage those in the future. One of the items that we're always paying attention to is mining interests. I know that there is a couple proposed exploration permits that are being discussed today about having on or near our homelands here. And as we all know, most of the mining companies really have bad reputations here in the state of Montana. From Hecla Mining to Tech Mining, to the issue we've been dealing with our fellow Canadian tribes, with the watershed pollutions, and the issues that we're dealing with selenium, et cetera, et cetera. By not being able to gain ownership, full ownership of these state parcels, it just really, it kind of gets contentious with the state of Montana, with the governor's administration, because as you guys are all aware, how this works is the state transfers ownership to the tribes. In lieu of, the state will get property from the feds. And when it comes with that exchange, when the state and the feds, the federal government is turning over both mineral and surface to the state. So there's a tribe's parcel getting severed parcels. As I understand it, it's the state land board's policy not to transfer those mineral rights. But I think in this case, when we're dealing with the tribes and we're fighting for every acre of land that we can get because of what was taken from us, this is important. And I really don't know how this committee is able to address that, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention, because I believe it's just another issue where the tribes are being treated unfairly in this exchange. And so I just wanted to mention that today. I don't expect a response, but I just want you all to know this is how I feel about it. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have any questions from the committee on that? Yep. Senator Sullivan.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman, are you dealing with DNRC? Who are you dealing with to have these discussions?
Push your mic, Glenn.
Yes, it is. One of the parties is the DNRC and the Federal Forest Service officials that have been involved in these discussions.
Another question, please.
Follow.
Councilman, you said the land board policy. So have you talked to the land board, or has there been a discussion with the land board and whatever on how this is going to be utilized, or is it have you had a discussion? Let's put it that way.
We have mentioned this with the governor. Okay, governor is part of the land board.
Right.
The lieutenant governor has taken a strong stance on this policy and has told us on several occasions that they will not budge, they will not transfer ownership of those mineral rights to the tribes. And I just think if that's the case, I think it's a policy that needs to be discussed amongst you all and see what it needs to do to either waive that or get it changed, especially when you're talking about Indian water settlements. I understand we have Fort Peck coming up, or Fort Belknap's coming up. They're gonna be having the same issue. And what it does is it just creates contention when we need to try to talk about what is fair. And once again, it's a state of Montana. I think it's just, I don't see how it becomes a loss to them. I mean, you know, as we all know, the history of those state properties, those are tribal lands at one time. Those were, and I don't think there was any historical documentation that the tribes even consented to giving those mineral rights up. So that's my stance on it. And so I think it's just a policy that need to be looked at when we're talking about Indian water rights settlements. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the committee on that? All right, Mr. Gauss?
Councilmember Langford?
Yes, good afternoon and welcome all of you to this, to our council chambers and to our Salish Kootenai homeland. And I know you guys are all very, very busy, so I'll just get to the point. Where do you stand on Medicaid reauthorization? And let me make a couple of points about it. Access to health care for our people is critical as Indian healthcare continues to be grossly underfunded. It's very important that this gets reauthorized. And we have, in rural Montana, Native people die on an average of 17 years younger. And Native people have the lowest life expectancy of any racial or ethnic group in the US. And so if I can ask you, and I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, but it's important that we as a tribe know where each and every one of you stand on this issue, because if you aren't in favor of reauthorization, well, we're going to go after you and try to convince you in a positive way how to get you to understand how critical this is to us. And I was just talking to Joe earlier about, you know, $30 to $45 million a year to run our tribal health, you know, and it costs a lot of money. So you think about that and you think about, okay, if you had 150 million in your coffers, that's 3 years to be able to operate. So really, it's not a lot of money when you're talking about healthcare. But can I get a show of hands, up or down, whether you're in favor? I would like to know who's in favor and who's not in favor. Okay, I appreciate the responses and thank you very much. And Joe, we'll be talking after. Okay. All right, thank you. And no disrespect. I mean, I want to hear your position and just understand it. And I know Joe Derglo has a presentation later on. So he might talk a little more about that. So, but thank you very much for your responses. I appreciate it.
I'd like to touch base on that. I mean, you guys are, you know, as we travel from tribe to tribe, and obviously you guys are always on top of everything pretty much. I mean, some of the others were surprised to find out it was, you know, up for reauthorization this year to some degree or whatnot, what have you. Across the board, just as a informational deal, obviously it depends on who makes it through the general election, but it looks extremely favorable right now that it will be getting reauthorized.
Good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Senator Solomon?
Mr. Chairman, Councilman, Joe and I and Jason won't be making a vote on that. So just to let you know. So sorry, you can go after him, but it won't do you any good.
I know that, right?
A little bit of the history about it came in 15, very, very tight issue. It has proven out over the decade, or almost decade, that it will be utilized since it was authorized. It saves the state significant amounts of money. We make money on this, if you will. We don't have to pay for what would, instead of Medicaid expansion, would have to come into regular Medicaid or Medicare, et cetera, significantly lower reimbursement rates. So this is a big deal. It is a big deal for, we call them critical access hospitals, which are the smaller ones. And so we've made a very good argument to keep this. In the last several sessions, we've had to fight to keep it. Always comes up to get rid of it. And there's an argument, especially by Senator from Billings, and he makes a good argument. I can't argue with his, it's federally funded and it's not helping the national debt and all those things. That is his argument. I get it. I understand it. I respect it. But the good that it does in Montana, and this is what I said on the floor in 15, well, no, that was 17 on the Senate floor, was it's a drop in the bucket. The amount of money that the federal government puts forth to Montana to save Medicaid expansion or to pay for it is a drop. It isn't a single drop of water in the ocean compared to what that budget is. And so we've been able to continue it to now, but it is up again for reauthorization or there is a sunset on it. And we will see that, but it has proven to be very good for Montana for the other reasons and the fact that we can cover so many more people. I mean, anyway.
I just want to say I especially appreciate you knowing the background and the history and knowing that and being able to say that on the floor. Thank you very much.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, senators and representatives and folks from the state, and particularly my Senator Susan Weber. Just wanted to say a few things. You know, the history between Montana and the tribes has been pretty contentious over the years. You know, we weren't citizens of the United States till 1924. My neighbor in high school, Joe Inyas, he was a full-blood Salish. He went to World War I, he fought for the United States, and he wasn't even a citizen. He couldn't vote. He couldn't go into certain places because Indians weren't welcome, nor were dogs in Missoula and on the reservation at certain establishments, but he was a veteran of the United States, but he wasn't a citizen. He came back and, you know, lived his life, and years later, he got a letter from the French government, and I was taking French lessons at Arley High School. My Salish language teacher, Dorothy Felsman, said, "Could you come over? Dad got this letter from France and we can't read it." So I read it. Basically, the French government sent him a medal. Thank you for coming to France to defend France. And it was a much poignant letter from a foreign nation that often we don't get from our own nation. And he didn't really get something like that from the United States. But it was interesting that France went that extra mile and did that. The relationship between the Montana didn't start until 1864. When the treaty was negotiated down here by Missoula, it was between Washington Territory and Isaac Stevens. And Montana comes on the scene in 1864, becomes a state in 1889. And throughout that history, it's been problematic to get representation, to get the right to vote, and even become a citizen of the United States, but then to be recognized as a citizen of the state of Montana took some time. It took court cases, it took battles, it took fighting. And then as we we are a self-governance tribe. We took authority over that, the laws of the federal government to exercise federal responsibilities on the reservation. That took a battle as well. Battle with the feds, battle with the state. We wanted to take over, re-exercise our authority over hunting and fishing rights. That became a battle. Our jurisdictional rights, it's still kind of a battle. Buying our land back, paying taxes on the land and putting it back into trust is a battle. So when the reservation was opened up in 1910, there were no tribal members that supported that. It was opened up at the opposition. There were tribal leaders and chiefs. These gentlemen went to DC and fought. But, you know, in spite of all of those years of battle and fighting in those court cases, we still have come to a place where we work with the state of Montana in a lot of ways, in cooperative agreements and, you know, cooperative hunting and fishing agreements, you know, the shared licensing of hunting and fishing on the res and such. But, you know, there's still a lot of misnomers out there. Indians don't pay taxes. This tribe pays a big bunch of taxes to Lake County. My brother, he owns fee property in the town of St. Ignatius. He pays property taxes on that. And a number of council members up here do as well. But the average Joe on the street, those Indians, they don't know, they get free checks from the government and everything they get is free. No hogwash. I'm looking at an article on the web right here. Montana is number 5 in the most dependent states on the federal government. Number 1, New Mexico and down the line, but Montana's number 5. So when people in the state of Montana come at the Indian people and say, oh, you guys get free money from the federal government, the state of Montana gets roughly $5.1 billion from the federal government in 2021 and is paid back approximately 1.53 for every federal dollar received. So the state of Montana as a whole is getting a large amount, and we all know that. But for some reason, our society focuses on those Indians. Now, I want to say something else. Indian people are a huge contributor to the Montana economy. Look at Billings. Those Indian folks put a lot of money into the Billings economy. If we could measure what the Indian people put into the Billings economy, it'd be shocking. It'd be shocking. And what we put as a tribe into Missoula and Kalispell and Blackfeet put into all the different tribes. Every one of our tribal people go buy something. They buy it here on the res, they buy it here at local stores and gas stations. There's an impact. And we here at Flathead, we hire tribal people, we hire non-tribal people, we hire people from other reservations that benefit the local economy. They're buying gas, they're buying groceries, they're every time you go to the local food store here in Pablo, you see all kinds of different folks in there benefiting from the economy that this tribe helps support. And I'm not trying to lecture you all, it's on my heart today to say that, to remind Indian people aren't just stuck on the reservation. They go shop, they go recreate, and there's an impact upon that. The other thing I want to add to Carol's question is, you know, the Medicaid expansion, I appreciate Senator Solomon's comment, that doesn't just impact our reservation communities, but it impacts all of our rural hospitals benefit from it. Our white folk that are struggling and need help, they benefit from it. So, and I appreciate the comment. The state it's helping the state, it's helping our tribes, and it's helping all of our rural hospitals. You look at those states that didn't do Medicaid expansion in their states, look at all the rural hospitals that have been closing in those states and the people that are hurting. You know, number one, Medicaid expansion helps us helps our people in so many ways. It's helping with treatment. It's helping with, moms that are struggling with, pregnancy issues, so many things, cancer and all that kind of thing. So I appreciate you enduring my little bit of a lecture. It's no disrespect meant, but, we've had a rough relationship over the long term, but we do work together in a lot of ways. And Montana and our tribes are in a better relationship if we work together, but we have to do it in a mutual respect relationship. And Councilman Two Teeth brought an important issue that the executive branch, and that's a different branch than you all, has this idea that, well, we're going to do land exchange, but we're going to separate the mineral rights. That makes no sense. You'll do it with the feds one way and the other groups, but the tribes, no, we're going to take the mineral rights. That makes no sense. The standard practice, in my understanding, the land board, the two are put together. That transaction, subsurface and surface rights are together. So, but my point today is just remember that our tribes have an economic impact upon the economy of Montana. And we all hire tribal, non-tribal, and tribal members from other tribes. And all of our non-native workers that work here, they're all paying taxes. So Montana's benefiting from that. Lake County, Missoula County, etc. So thank you for letting me get on a little bit of a soapbox. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilman Steele. Let's see, in 2005 to 2009, there was the Yellowtail report that came out. We've been trying to get that updated. And at that time, between that period, the tribes in aggregate put in over $6 billion into the state economy. And we had a small bill that went to the University of Montana. And we never did get any kind of information out of the University of Montana. This was supposed to be a follow-up on the tribe's impact. And so we could just say, from there on, we can double that $12 billion into the state economy. And we know that's probably a low figure, from here or from 2005, 2009. So yes, we do have a large impact and we realize that. I think it's something that we should really follow up on this session because there is no information. And I guess the University of Montana's reasoning was the tribes were not giving them data. Well, Eleanor Yellowtail got that data, And that was only based on salaries, not on other issues like taxation or in our enterprises, those type of things. But she only did it on the salaries because for my reservation, Blackfeet, we don't have the commercial areas. We have to go to Great Falls or Kalispell, Missoula. We travel a lot. And I know Crow and Cheyenne are the same way, they travel to Billings. So we do have a big economical impact on the state of Montana. But I think we will resurrect that bill and make sure that there's more money put into it and that we can see just what the picture is. And so that when we make our arguments regarding whatever we need, that it's a more accurate picture than what is portrayed. I don't think we can do anything about the stereotypes. We get a check every month. I'd love it, but the point is one thing, just to follow up, but one thing is Medicaid and Medicare, especially I can only speak for Blackfeet right now, is that it's the first time we got preventive health. It was always triage. If you go in there with a toothache, you get your tooth pulled. You know, kids would go in there with a toothache. Now those kids are getting orthodontist work, you know, something, and teeth are like a health, overall health for your, or for your body, I guess. Teeth are just one of those things we take for granted all the time, but it is has a health impact on the total health of your body. So I really, will work on hopefully ensuring, we'll fight for that Medicaid expansion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I can throw just a little bit on that too. So, a lot of what happened last session was the report. The Department of Indian Affairs is leaning away drastically from doing these reports or some of the stuff they've done in the past. So a lot of that, authority was shifted over to the Department of Commerce, who is trying to collaborate data, but at the end of the day, the 52,000 or whatever we had allocated to send to the BBER wouldn't even buy the paper to get the thing started, so. I mean, that's things to look at in the future. We've had discussions of, trying to get a hold of Arthur Blank Foundation and see if they could help possibly, fund or some other stuff, but we'll keep that in mind because as legislators, we do need that hard data. That makes our life a lot easier when we're in there fighting for stuff. I mean, on a personal level, I think the Indian reservations are probably the fifth largest benefactor in Montana's economy, really. The state keeps passed down money from the feds. Everything that we receive in federal funding essentially goes right outside the boundaries, gets spent and is absorbed directly by the state. I mean, just as everybody said. So, I mean, we play a huge role here. So, anyway, as a group, we'll attempt to keep up on that and keep striving for better and more data.
Mr. Chair, we have Councilwoman Finley.
Thank you. So, Councilwoman Finley, I represent the Polson district. I live in Polson. I grew up in Arlee. And I just wanted to say a couple things. I'm on the State Tribal Economic Development Commission, so we've met before, and I'm the vice chair of that commission. And, you know, about economic development, I just want to say that it's important that you support all economic development aggressively and vigorously in Indian country. So those of you who are Native know that we fund services by the businesses that we run. That, you know, we are living in an economic system that we did not create, but I think we have learned it and we have become really good at it. Because, you know, the non-Indians who live on our land don't pay taxes to us. And we have paid a heavy price in order for them to live here. We have given up a lot. Nobody gives us anything, but we have given a lot. And the way we fund services to the most vulnerable people in our community, to our elders, is through the businesses that we run. So when our businesses that we have are successful, me and Tom and Len and Jimmy and we don't get raises. We're not getting a bonus. We personally don't benefit from that, but the most vulnerable people in our community do. And they are depending on that revenue for services that they get. That is how we fund our services. And so anytime that you can support our tribe in any economic development activity that we want to do, it's essential. Because we fund services through those businesses, whether it's gaming, whatever it is. And also as a government, but also individually. So, you know, on the State Economic Development Commission, there's grant money that goes towards Indian entrepreneurs. That is really important. And a lot of people have been able to change their lives through becoming entrepreneurs and starting their own businesses. And the benefit of that is then they can hire more people. And so, you know, all support for economic development in Indian country is really important. And then, you know, and then we are, I would say our tribe has a really good reputation in so many ways. I'm so proud of our tribe, and we work well with so many other governments. But, you know, we live in Lake County. some of us I live in Lake County, some of us live in Sanders County, some of us, I don't know if anyone lives in Missoula County. I think Bing lives in Missoula County. But we have such positive relationships with so many other governmental entities. And, you know, and one thing I just want to say is that as I live in Lake County, I own fee property. I pay taxes. And I just want representatives from Montana to be aware of that a lot of us tribal members do pay taxes. And if I'm going to pay taxes, if Lake County is going to take my tax dollars, they have to give me something for that. There cannot be taxation without representation. They can't take my tax money and refuse to provide a service for me and my family because we're Indians. They cannot do that. And I just want to bring that to your attention. And also one of the things that I did recently, I have to leave early, so I just kind of want to touch upon a few different things. And one of the things that I did recently is that I volunteered my time to work at a satellite voting offices in Sanders County. I don't live in Sanders County, but I believe in our democracy. And I believe in being part of something that perpetuates our democracy and people's right to participate in it. So I volunteered at 2 different voting satellite offices in Sanders County. And it was so exciting to see people who've never voted before come in because we made that accessible to their community. And also to see an Indian person at one of those polling sites was so important. Because when you see people like you being part of something, it makes you think differently about it. It makes you think, oh, maybe I can be part of that. Maybe it's something that applies to me too. It's very empowering. And it was so exciting to see how proud some people were to walk in and they were intimidated because they'd never voted before, and to come in and be greeted with warmness and friendliness and kindness. And then they got to participate in our democracy, and every American should have the right to do that. So anyway, those are the things that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Do you have any comment? Representative Sharon, still present?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for those words, Ms. Finley. I've been, probably besides, I'm probably the second senior, legislator here right now. And, one of the things that during my tenure in the legislature, we've been afforded the opportunity to truly represent now the population, the Native population in Montana. And that's been the last couple of sessions. And part of that is because the access to polls, being able to get people to vote and to have that kind of representation. So on one hand, it's a good thing, but then on the other hand, we've also have had assaults on that, the voting rights of Native Americans, voting rights of seniors, and voting rights of college students. It's been, you know, the swing votes, and there's been an outright attempt to basically count out those votes. And I think that you're well aware of what, you know, the changes that have happened and the pushback that has happened as well. And the American Indian Caucus has been right in the middle of all of that, basically to push back, to work with the allies, the different organizations, and I've been one of the ones that's really pushed back a lot about making sure that the voting rights are maintained, being able to coordinate and talk with folks, because you know what Mr. Steele talked about, you know, the citizenship. Our natives were not citizens, but they went and protected this land, but yet, you know, we weren't. And one of the side comments I'll make here, and I want you to chew about it. What did we gain from being a citizen of the United States when technically we were citizens of our own country, our own countries? And so I've been contemplating that since the 100th anniversary, to be honest with you. And so along with citizenship comes voting rights, but we didn't really have that till 1975 because we still had this anti-Indian, the racism that we've had to all fight. And so it is an issue and it continues to be. And I think that as tribal nations, as individuals, we need to be, we have to make that stance. We have to thank you for volunteering, Ms. Finley, because that's the most important thing, is that we have to protect that right, because we can't take it for granted. And because we have too many forces trying to undermine us, to undermine we've come into our own, so to speak, in terms of the power of the vote. But we also have forces that are coming against us to basically silence us. And so I think it's important to especially as we're moving into this presidential election, where the things that are happening all around us, we really have to make a stance, and we really have to be out there to make our presence known again. And the only way to do that is that we all have to vote, and that's important. The other part of it is the business. I served 12, let's see. When I was in the Senate and then moved to the House, except for 2 sessions, I was on Business and Labor. And one of the things that over the years, we've had opportunities to provide different bills, and which went into law to generate business for entrepreneurs and for tribal nations. And in the past, I'll just put it out there, when the governor came in, we've had some rollback on some things that we've held dear and hung on to, and for Indian businesses. And I think that we really need to take a look at the rollback on some of those expansions. What we suffered, and just to be honest with you, we've had to fight for every dollar in the legislature. I sit on the Appropriations Committee on the House side, and I've been on the Appropriations Committee for two legislative sessions. The first time as an individual to be on that, and we've had to justify everything. We need the data, we need the information. It needs to be there so that we can fight for these things, and that's been what trying to maintain these few programs that benefit Indian country. And they're always on the chopping block. I'll be honest with you. They're always on the chopping block. And because reports the data is not there, how are the taxes being used? Well, like you said, we're paying taxes too. So it's our money as well as everybody else's money. But using data as a means to cut is what we've had to fight. And so I would say that as we're moving into the 2025 legislation, it's important to make sure that information gets to us so that we can fight. It's important to get folks there. I do appreciate that the tribe here invests in someone to go and lobby, because that makes a big difference. And that the American Indian Caucus works with the lobbyists as well as other lobbyists, so that we can get information out there. And that collective movement has served us well. But it's a hostile environment. I will be honest with you. The last couple of sessions have been a hostile environment for American Indians, and that we have to, and that we've had to fight tooth and nail, and to be able to maintain what we have, and to be able to get and to ensure that the tribal governments, tribal people get their fair share. So just want to let you know that we have been pushing. I have to say that American Indian Caucus has been pushing back, but it didn't happen alone. We've had all of these different allies, and so I do appreciate your contribution to, having a lobbyist there, because without your contribution of a lobbyist, we would have been sunk in several sessions back. We would have lost things. And so it's important to invest. We've tried to share this with Tribal Leaders Council and say you have to invest. Because when we come together and then we're able to make some movement even in a hostile environment. And so thank you for the help. Just wanted to share that with you.
Still open for more discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about something that's pretty dear to me, and I know that, other folks here at the table have been part of this, even Representative Reed helped with this, with the IAS and building a good program for the state to protect our waters. But first I want to thank, Senator Solomon in particular for his knowledge on Medicaid and supporting hospitals, of course, the Water Compact, and I want to make sure that I make that shout out to you for a job well done. And knowing where Pablo is. I gotta say, it was like 20 years ago, my wife got lost in Pablo. So, anyway, water for us is absolutely, so many tribal communities is absolutely sacred. So it's the life, it's our lifeblood. And so when we talk about, wanting to protect our water courses, Flathead Lake or the Missouri or the Yellowstone or the Upper Columbia here, the Flathead system, the Clark Fork, it's absolutely heartfelt. I mean, it's from the deep soul of our people that we need to protect it. And it's so important for our economy, from agriculture to municipalities to whatever. And so it's been a struggle with the state of Montana creating a good program to protect our water courses from invasive species. And so we've gone through an evolution through time. And I think we have a pretty good program going right now. And it's been a lot of effort. I know I sat with Joe and did some testimony to try to strengthen our funding. And so that's really important. And so I know the Blackfeet tribe and us both share operations with State Fish, Wildlife and Parks to shore up and put up check stations to check for invasive species aquatic invasive species coming into the state waters and tribal waters. And that's been a great partnership. It's been a good one. But a lot of times we looked at it as just a temporary roadside thing, and is the funding solid? Is it there? It absolutely has to be there. It absolutely has to be solid. And we need to set up permanent stations. I've advocated that from day one, permanent check stations. So we have the opportunity here. I think we've set the template, or at least the demonstrated our ability to operate boat check stations for the state and for the tribes here on our reservation and off the reservation, because we operate both. I think the only 24-hour station, at least for the longest duration, our Ravalli station on Highway 93. And then we also operate a station over at Thompson Falls. We operate two, our tribes do. And we recognize the weak link that, you need to be open as whenever it's not freezing out, and you need to be open for as long as you possibly can, because you're only as good as your weakest link. If you're not open at 12 o'clock at midnight and some guy comes in from Lake Mead, snowbird coming back up, and you're not open, and they come up and say, oh, we're going to drop our boat into Flathead Lake. Well, it doesn't do us any good, does it? We just missed it. That's all it takes. So it has to be a real strong program, and it has to be as long as possible and manned as best as possible. But along with that is, it's like doing your job in a healthy, good work environment. So if it's a blizzarding outside and you're trying to check some boat in the middle of a rainstorm, it's pretty hard to do that. Or if it's in the middle of the night, it's hard to do that. So we've put some of our own funding, to fund our check stations here, at least the one on the reservation, through our mitigation program of our hydropower facility, along with grants that we've gotten, and then of course the partnership with Fish, Wildlife and Parks that's funded through the state legislature and how they appropriate it. But we really would love to be able to take that Ravalli check station and make it a permanent site. Take ownership of that, build infrastructure that's there, not just a portable station, not just a portable shed, and be able to invest in that. And we really need state to help us with that. We need to be able to get that site turned over from Montana Department of Highways and made it to that kind of a dedication so that we can build something. So we have that. We do not want a muscle-fouled boat make it to Flathead Lake. I mean, we're self-centered here, but if we can do it here and we can demonstrate what a good boat check station should look like, then that can be repeated elsewhere around the state. We can do other permanent check stations that are more valuable, more of a useful tool. So just critically important. And I just hate to see the day that, you know, just because we're too cheap or we couldn't figure it out, you know, we can figure this out. We can do a better job. There's always a better job that we can do. And I see a lot of weak link there. And so I really would advocate that if the Tribal Relations Committee can advocate for strong AIS support and for us being able to acquire that Ravalli Hill check station that we have, a Ravalli, Montana check station that's in Department of Highways use right now. We're just basically using it. Have that a permanent transfer to the tribes or allocated permanently for a check station, then that would be a win for us. And we could get other monies and build something better and have a better facility. Can't overstate how important that is for us. So thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Councilman McDonald, do you have any idea what it would cost to have, or to make it 24 hours, let's say 365 days a year or something like that?
Well, Mr. Chair, we operate right now during the peak summer days of travel, 24 hours a day at Ravalli right now. And so it's funded that way right now. And there's no need to do it when it's freezing out, at least in regards to transporting mussels. Mussels die as soon as they get below 32 degrees. So it's really that warm weather and how they're traveling. You really gotta watch that summer season. And that's the critical time period. We always can have more funding to improve the quality of the check station. So that's the built environment. We need to have a shelter. We need to have lights. We need to have a good facility. In order to do that, we can't just do it on a temporary lease. We need to have something permanent to be able to get the funding. There's funding out there, but we can't just say, well, we want to build a permanent, canopy on something that we don't own. So that would be the important part. The other sites around the state are the ones that really need that 24-hour coverage. And they try to provide it in quite a few places that are connected to the interstate. But once you get away from the interstate and say you're up on Highway 2, there's no 24 hours up there. And if you get on some of these other, like Highway 200, that's not 24 hours. No, it's not. And so you really got to look at the site locations and every major point of entry into the state of Montana, especially coming from the directions where we know there are foul waters. Those are the ones that need to be 24 hours a day. And if you don't have a good site, a good work environment, it's harder and harder to recruit employees. If you're a remote site, it's very difficult to get employees to even work the station. So you need to have a good site for them to work, safe environment, and something that can do their job in a really good way. So if they're trying to find something that's dark and, it's just, you're out there working, it's cold, it's 40 degrees out, and, it's a difficult thing to get a job done right. So we have those estimates of what our costs are. I could give you that information. I'm sure that we can get that to you, but I would hate to see the state reduce any AIS funding. And if anything, it needs to go the other way, tremendously, because there's so many more people coming to the state of Montana.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, a follow-up. Well, Tom, it's going to go, and I believe Representative Paraguay said to Section C in the budgeting process and some of the issues, but there needs to be discussion, like starting soon, about what you're looking at. Maybe prioritize, do we need the 24-hour station somewhere else? Do we need a permanent station here? Somewhere there's got to be the opportunity for that checklist, because money will run out at here. And then it's, you can share this expense, we'll share this expense, et cetera. My guess would be there is no, I'd be very surprised if anybody from the state wanted to cut any funding. I would think they'd want to add to it. And as a irrigator, this is the scariest thing I can think of, is the fact if mussels move in, they'll take over and in the blink of an eye. So it's a huge issue that we want to discuss and get on top of. But it's like the work needs to be done starting soon, because when you get into the middle of a session where Representative Paraguay and crew are going to be working on this, they need to have those kinds of facts and things like that so that they could make the informed decision or make the arguments. I guess that's my 2 cents.
Representative Reed.
Thank you. Thank you, Council. Sharon and I both work in Section C, and we have the DNRC and Montana Department of Transportation both in our committee, and we will be meeting with them in September. And I would greatly appreciate a letter from the Tribal Council to bring forward this idea. And then someone in that committee or someone from in the legislative services could actually put forward a bill to bring that about. And since we work in appropriations and we have more time to deal with money issues than just a simple bill, it would be something that I think we could receive by support from both parties and that. And Dan and I are irrigators, and we are absolutely grateful for the boat check stations that are all over the state, and especially the one in Ravalli, because those are fears of ours. I've heard of the expenses that it takes when something breaks loose in this valley and that. So we would, Sharon, you'll be back in that section. I will be gone, but I would greatly like to put that before the September meeting and let those two agencies figure out a solution to it. But I still think it's going to require an actual bill draft to support the process. And the letter of support would greatly enhance that. And since that's DOT property there, another issue going on, and I have been constantly working with the abandoned gas station in Ronan and that, and now that's county property, and I'm sitting there going, is that a feasible spot for a boat check station right there under that awning and with that building? Because but it belongs to the county now, and I'm just bringing it up as a temporary possibility for a permanent building. But I agree the Ravalli site is a way better site than that. But it was just a comment I would like to make. But if the letter came and we had the support of the Tribal Council, I think that would go a long ways to talking to the Montana Department of Transportation and the DNRC, because they would both have to collaborate on that issue, because the funding would come from the DNRC and the property would come from the Montana Department of Transportation. So I would hardly support that, and anybody who ran in my stead, I would ask them to support that too. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's two things that we can do with this request would be that Joe and I will be meeting in September, but maybe we could ask our staff to look into this for us. We were just talking in DNRC, and we did receive some reports, but the costs of these stations, we have not received anything. And so it might be behoove us as you know, state tribal relations to make that request so that we can have that information and then just kind of double team this issue.
Representative Woodland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up what Sharon was saying, you know, the Blackfeet are on 2 and 89, that go east and west, that we would probably be, wanted to be included in that, a permanent, because that's one of the major highways. I see in that little, temporary, um, check station right outside Browning, it's on both sides of the road, that there's always a lineup of boats going either east or west. And we had, Tiber, I believe, where they had mussels. They already had mussels going through, and we don't want that because, we work closely with Glacier, and National Park. You probably too on this side, regarding, boat checks or for mussels. And it's really helped. We haven't had any, knock on wood. But, yeah, in all of the lakes, you know, because we have St. Mary's and Lower St. Mary's. St. Mary's is in the park, Lower St. Mary's is on the reservation. So I think we would, request that as well, so that we can get them on both ends before they even get to Flathead Lake. Thank you.
That's something we can look into.
I think we can. Meeting.
Okay. All righty, what else we have?
Martin?
Mr. Chair, Council, and thank you all for coming today. My colleague is on travel today. She's on Zoom, but I'm the alternate for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Person Task Force. We appreciate the continued funding for the next 10 years, but we definitely have a lot of work to do. We, as of the 6th, there were 177 cases of people missing, and 46 of those were identified as Indigenous. You know, we have some people on our reservation still missing, family members, and so it's really important to us to help that cause. We have a nonprofit that is solely funded through fundraising within the CSKT that we've helped a couple of families in the last month or so to go look for loved ones in different areas. And so it's something that's critically important to the Indian country, as you guys all well know. And so your continued support on that is very important. Councilwoman Danielle Matt from Dixon, she's the main rep, and I've kind of fallen in as the alternate. And so, you know, anything you guys can do to support that, it's appreciated. And again, thank you for coming.
The MMIW bills, basically, we have to bring them back every session and re-up them, so. On behalf of, this committee, of course, please show up and support when they roll around again. Representative?
Mr. Chair, you know as well as I do that, and it is an issue. I did see the report that's on our web, and I think it's here in our packet. It was a late start to unfortunately, I'm glad that we have people representing at this point, but it almost took a year to do that, which I think is a disservice to our communities. And then also the webpage or the system is down because we haven't been, we don't have a vendor, right? We don't have a vendor to keep the system going. And so has to be some kind of, I'm thinking aloud right now, but those are some of the issues that I've looked at in terms of problematic issues. And so somehow, some way to move forward, it has to be permanent, and it has to be housed and integrated into the bigger system that we found out in terms of missing the alert system for missing people. And so we had our separate database, but the databases are not integrated, and that's been an issue. And we did have a vendor, and I think Blackfeet was the last one that had it, and then the Department of Justice has dropped the ball on it in terms of getting a vendor. So we have to rely on what existing system is there, and and some of it's integrated, some of it's not. So what happens is the communities have been really active about getting that information out. But again, the state needs to be more responsible, I do have to say, in making sure that we have a seamless system, because I've noticed, and since June, we're missing, we're seeing an uptick in a lot of people going missing. And it's very problematic. And where I see it, it's not on any of our alert systems. It's on Facebook and people using the different platforms to get that information out. And we have way too many young people, but it's across the age, a certain age group, teenagers are missing, and some of them are runaways, but not all. But then we also are missing 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings, and then they're off the face of the earth and nobody seems to know where they're at. So the issue is out there. And somehow, some way, we have to have a better alert system. And so that's we're gonna have to work on that as a committee, I believe, somehow, some way with the Department of Justice to get something that's better so that we can get that information out there. The protective factors that we don't have, which we've been working on as a committee, has been the police forces. That's been an issue, especially down our way. Some of the tribes, BIA police forces are nominal, trying to go out and protect, and yet we don't have, and that's a bigger issue at the federal level. And we've been working on that, but we still can't, we haven't found, we've been pushing, haven't found a solution. But if we can at least have that alert system out there and people can be looking, then if we can catch them in the first 48 hours, I think we can catch them. But even that is a little too late sometimes, especially if they're taken out of state. And so human trafficking and all of that is an issue as well. So we still have, so we will be working on this. This is something that we have to, it's been on our radar. So we will continue to move forward because we haven't found all of the resolution that we need. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I bring up one more thing. I'm gonna give Representative Smith a shout out. He had a very good bill. He started a school photo ID repository. One of the first initial reports we got back years ago from the response team was they, nobody had pictures of their kids. These pictures are 5, 10 years old and they don't even resemble them anymore or whatnot. So, Frank, or Representative Smith ran a bill years ago already, time flies, that never gathered the steam that it should have. And basically what it does is it allows, if you will check the box and tell them you're good with it, because you have to opt in, it allows the school to take your kids' school photos and put them in a repository so law enforcement can have access to it. And it's a really critical, crucial type deal that everybody seems to overlook. So, on your end, if you guys would kind of make sure your tribal members know of that too, it'd sure help the fight. Have any more? Senator Weber?
Mr. Chair, just a suggestion, maybe our staffers could get a letter out or to notify all the tribes or even the school systems that this is that it is out there, because really Representative Smith's bill is a fantastic bill because it came through Culture and Education and we passed it almost unanimously. And it's for the protection of our children, but if we can get that out so that all the communities will know that it's there and they can opt in or opt out, either one. Thanks.
I know.
Yep, Representative Smith.
Yeah, and background of that bill, most schools have taken most of the students' pictures and they've already got them on record. And so we started out with an opt-in because of the youth program. And since we can't bill that. And another thing is I wanted to get into it, we talked about Medicaid for a while. As you probably know, I've been on SAT-Air's board for many years. We started SAT-Air in Glasgow. And we've got a problem with it because when the airplane leaves the ground, it's no longer on public health. It's on Medicaid. So the rate drops in half. If we don't have something to do with that, sooner or later, we're going to lose our aircraft. And I don't know how many other programs are in that kind of shape. So with that, thank you.
Mr. Chair, as long as we're on Medicaid, if I may invite our health director, Joe Durgalo, come up. I think he had a little bit of more information about it.
Sure.
Joe?
Gotta see it to read it. Good afternoon, Vice Chairman McDonald, Chairman Small, fellow council members, and committee members. My name is Joe Durglo, Durglo. I am the department head for the CSKT Tribal Health Department. I'm honored to oversee the comprehensive tribal healthcare delivery system here at CSKT that provides services to over 10,000 eligible tribal health recipients in our care. Our healthcare system is unique and expansive across the Flathead Nation with healthcare facilities in Arlee, Sitting Ignatius, Ronan, Pablo, Polson, Elmo, and Hot Springs, providing a wide variety of services, including primary medical care, pharmacy services, dental care, behavioral health care, including mental health and substance abuse treatment, diabetes care and prevention, public health, environmental health, audiology, speech, physical therapy, and optometry services. Since tribal health does not provide many specialty services or inpatient hospitalization, we must join with local and regional healthcare partners to ensure healthcare services are available to our community. Tribal health is unlike other healthcare providers, as we also pay for our recipients' care when it's not available under our roof. Our healthcare system is funded by a variety of sources, including funding from Indian Health Service, Medicare, Veterans Administration, grants, and private health insurance. Certainly, Montana Medicaid is a primary funding source, including expanded Medicaid. This funding partnership between tribal health and Medicaid is significant. First is a substantial reimbursement for Medicaid services that tribal health provides. Secondly is the relief from using tribal health's limited dollars to pay for health care provided by external providers when our eligible recipients have Medicaid coverage. This relief was magnified in 2015 when some of you voted to expand Medicaid to cover adults without children who meet income guidelines. Medicaid expansion provides significant opportunities for our healthcare delivery system. For example, tribal health has gained or expanded healthcare facilities from Arlee to Hot Springs, increasing access to care. Increased jobs across the reservation, including a number of healthcare providers and all those support staff,
that help us provide healthcare services. Has increased the payments to our private sector healthcare providers so they can expand their services to our entire community. Shifted access from high-cost urgent care and emergency room care, often with negative outcomes, to early interventions and preventative care with higher likelihood of positive results. In my observation, as I walk the halls in the tribal health facilities and greet our patients, I see people who have never accessed care prior to Medicaid expansion. They are taking responsibility for their health care by showing up and being accountable. It is a huge change that in future years will show improved health outcomes to everyone in our community. It is vital Medicaid expansion continues. It is my understanding, as the State Tribal Relations Committee has visited Indian country across Montana, that retaining expanded Medicaid has been a top priority of all tribes. I know in my meetings with others, including the American Indian Health Leaders and the Rocky Mountain Tribal Leaders Health Committee, it is the most expressed priority. Losing health care coverage provided through Medicaid expansion would be devastating to our community. It would harm the healthcare system for everyone on the reservation and across the state. Recently, the administrators of 2 local hospitals reported that if Medicaid is diminished, rural hospitals may close or get into financial trouble, and this will result in larger hospital systems getting overwhelmed. They shared that not reauthorizing Medicaid expansion could cost one hospital between $4 million and $6 million a year, which would have a huge economic impact that could potentially cause closures and reduce services across all communities to all taxpayers, truly, because these costs will rise and they will be borne by all of us. CSKT respectfully requests this committee vote for a committee bill to remove the Medicaid expansion sunset in the current authorized legislation and appropriate funds required. This bold action would send a strong message for Indian country in Montana. It says that in our travels, you heard what tribes said and are willing to act. The State Tribal Relations Committee's work plan acknowledges that their most important responsibility is to act as the liaison between the tribes and the state of Montana. Thank you for your commitment to come to our homelands and listen to us and represent our positions in the Montana legislature. If you have any questions, I can do that.
Do you have any questions while he's here? About your program in particular? Thank you. All right, what else?
Mr. Chair, I might ask some of our staff back there, Shane or Jordan, if they have anything that we might be missing. Thumbs up. Sounds good. Thank you again for coming, and we would love to host you anytime.
Okay, it looks like we may, oh, sorry, Representative Reed.
I've served on this committee 4 times, and this is the first time we've ever actually got to visit a tribal law enforcement facility in that whole process, and I'm outstandingly impressed, let's just put it this way. And I know the subject of PL 280 is a big one, and I would just like to make a statement that as far as I'm concerned with the tribe and its relationship with the county, that's actually a very good relationship. And any conversation that concerns PL 280, I think the issue is strictly between the county and the state. And the tribe's response is guarded, and rightfully so. I totally defend your position that let's let the county and the state fight this out. But as far as I'm concerned, one time I had a break into my house, and first people to arrive were the tribal police, and I was gladly welcomed them into my house anytime. And living here all my life and knowing the people who have been on the tribal police department and the training and stuff like that, I just really want to thank this tribal council for the process that's going on right now. And just let the public know that literally this battle is between Lake County and the state, and the tribe's position, I think, is the correct one. At this point in time, silence is golden, and let the chips fall where they may between the county and the tribe. So I just wanted to put that out because I've been one of the instigators of a lot of the bills that have been brought forward, and I've never received anything negative from the tribal council or tribal council members. I have from the cultural side of the tribe and that, and I choose to try and understand where they're coming from. But I just thank the tribe for letting us see the law enforcement side of this tribe. And like I said, we've never been in any other tribal law enforcement for a view of their facilities, but we have heard, this committee has gone through so many renditions of like the Northern Cheyenne having, that reservation having only 5 law enforcement officers, the Crow only having, what, 6 now, and they just hired one and that. And so yesterday when we were in the Blackfeet tribal meeting, I made it a request that we need to actually have a comparison of law enforcement on all the reservations so the state legislature can have an idea the disparity between the different tribes and that, and so that there's a common talking point. I was on the floor when I heard the statement, tribal members do not pay taxes, and I go, oh, ouch, that one hurts. I was on the floor, and I actually got to talk to the person who said that, and literally chastised him for it off the scene, because I think 99% of the legislators, there are 100, knew that that was not a true statement. So, but it was made on the floor. I can't apologize for it because it was, like I said, it was made on the floor, but I think the majority of us know exactly why that came about. So I just thank you for letting us participate in and do this. So I thank you.
Representative or Senator?
Yeah. Thank you. I believe we're kind of winding down here, but just a couple things. I carried Senate Joint Resolution 6, which requested from the U.S. Congress for a day of remembrance for our children that died in boarding schools, those that survived, and for their descendants, which we all are. I can see several of your names here that are on the list of children that went to Fort Shaw. And I'd just like to invite you to, this is just the end of that SJ6 on the 15th, which is real short notice for you, to remember the children of Fort Shaw. One of the things about the Flathead Indian Reservation was that the youngest child to attend Fort Shaw was a 4-year-old from here. And he graduated at 5. But he was an orphan and they sent him there. And I was just thinking, when I was reading, you know, there were he was the youngest by far, but there was a 5, there were several 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. But I just can't imagine a 4-year-old, you know, when my sons were 4 years old, they were still babies. But each one of our tribes have a child that is still resting in the military cemetery at Fort Shaw. So if you want to come, it's 10 to 2. Hopefully the governor will be there or his representative, John Tester will be there, and more people will be there. But I just invited every tribe to come if you wish. So that'll be the end of that. I did this in conjunction with other people, and I was going, well, given the climate of our Congress lately. Everybody reads it all over. They'll never get to SJ6, you know, from Montana. But for us here, it's it means something, you know. Like I said, your name, so you have relatives that went to that school. And all of us have relatives that went to all of these schools here. But I would truly invite you there, 15, 10 to 2, you know, get to walk through Fort Shaw, get to walk through the cemetery and have a smudging ceremony. So with that, I'm done. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any more discussion? Senator?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to weigh in on this PL 280 issue a little bit. There's a couple different parts to it. One's political, and it's frustrating because the law is law, and the state's very comfortable in their legal position. They can fight forever in court and do all that. There's no winner there. The cooperation amongst all the entities has been a win for a long time since you put it together. And that helps me included, because I live on this reservation too. It makes us feel better and makes us feel safer. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. We need to look ahead and try and come up with situations and a way to continue this. The political part can play itself out. And it's unfortunate. There was an amendment offered in 23 that I kind of was in the meeting to author that thing, turned down. It's back on the table now. Pretty much same thing, same money, same thing. But the trick is everybody's got to come to the table to have that discussion. And I'm going to be disagreeing with Joe a little bit. I'd like to see you be in part of that discussion, because at the end of the day, all of you have to work together and agree on that. So I'd like to see everybody come back to the thing and say, we can work on rehab and addiction and mental health and all these things. No, you don't have to build a new jail, but you need to work on how you're going to treat the people that you're going to have in these law enforcement situations and how you can best treat them. And all those things will not happen unless you have those discussions. So again, I'm going to disagree with Joe a little bit. I'd like to see you at least have those discussions, not only with Lake County, but the state also. And I think there's opportunity, because that's how I legislate. Take the opportunity, utilize the people, and see if you can come up with a situation that works. Not saying it will or it won't. I'm just saying I know it won't if you don't do it. So my 2 cents, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any more discussion, group?
Mr. Chair, Councilman Charlo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Chairman. Just going back to our law enforcement, I'm sorry that Craig and Louis left, but yeah, we have a top-notch law enforcement. We actually have a MMIP officer that's partially assigned to that. And so if you guys ever want to work with a very well-run organization, you know, please come and visit. We're more than willing to help, get other people's task force off the ground. You know, our work with 280, our police are top notch on that as well. And that is some of the reasons why some of the prosecutions through Lake County are higher with our tribal members, because our police do such a good job of taking drugs off the street and criminals off the street. And, you know, we've already started the process of taking over felony prosecution, and we prosecuted over 100 felonies last year, and we're on pace to do the same this year, and you know, hundreds of misdemeanor prosecutions. And so we have the ability, it's just the capacity that we lack right now. And so at this point, you know, we're looking at kind of continue what we're doing. You know, the county has been a, you know, the law enforcement's been a good partner, but we definitely feel that we're to the point now where, you know, we can start looking at keeping our people out of the system, doing more diversion, more treatment, more mental health help, you know, because a lot of the issues that crime stems from is mental health and addiction issues. And One of my favorite people always says that you can't incarcerate addiction or mental health out of someone. And so tackling those problems and tackling them as a community, because these issues aren't just, tribal and non-tribal. It's the entire community that these drugs are affecting. And so, always keep that in mind that, we got to heal the entire community. And especially this reservation that is so checkerboarded and, where the Indians are actually the minority here. We take that very, very seriously, and we want to make sure that we're not just incarcerating people, but try to get them healthy. And, punitive things are work to a point, but, there's other ways of dealing with people and making them putting more barriers in front of them for employment and housing and all these things after you incarcerate them isn't the way to go. It's something that you provide a healthy, safe community for them. And, we've got some pilot programs going here with our addiction. And, it's something that, hopefully other communities can mimic and do the same with their communities that are struggling with these. So, again, thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate all your hard work, and just continue the good fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the comments on the PL 280. I'll just respectfully just say something kind of bluntly. We have a good relationship with Missoula County. We can go down there and meet with them. Everyone meets, it's respectful, it's across the table. We can meet with practically any of the municipalities. We can meet with you all. We can meet with the governor. But when it comes with those folks at the Lake County Commissioners, we can have them here and have an understanding. And then the next thing you know, we're getting attacked in the press. So we're not doing that. Our people aren't doing that. But for some reason, the leadership at the Lake County seem to just, that's their modus operandi. And it's frustrating. It's just, it's antagonistic. It's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to us. It's disrespectful to our people. And it's disrespectful to our tribal people from other reservations that are incarcerated because of the system we have here. I think this council, for years, it's been that kind of way. When we were fighting over the hunting and fishing agreement, we had county commissioners down at Nine Pipe flaunting that agreement. And Chairman Pablo intervened in that and was able to get that turned around. And I just have to say that it's no disrespect. It's just, it's hard to visit with someone and know that you're going to be attacked in the press or in a letter or to the governor or to the president or to whomever. And it's not an actual reflection of what went on in the meeting. I have full confidence in this meeting. I know it's what we say here, that you're not going to go out in the press and attack the tribes. We haven't had the governor do that, the lieutenant governor. We haven't had Missoula County do that, any of our municipalities. I attend regular meetings of St. Ignatius City Council. It's a good relationship. The chief of police of St. Ignatius was here. But I just have to be blunt in that regard. Do we want to work with them? Absolutely. But it takes two to dance and two to tango, and one of your partners being reluctant. It's hard to do that. But thank you, legislators, and I appreciate Senator Solomon, your words, and Representative Reed, and all of our other senators, representatives here. Thank you for taking the time to come visit with us and hear our concerns and and have a discussion. And thank you for taking the time to visit our different entities that you visited with. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Smith.
Yeah, thank you, everybody, for paying attention to us. On Fort Peck Reservation now, we've started an exchange of officers between Fort Belknap and Fort Peck. We exchanged 2 of them, but they got in on a big murder there. They did a whole bunch of their extra work. But, you know, we talked about, I don't know if you remember, last time we was here, I was chairing. And I got a phone call from one of our people in Pablo complaining about the water compact. He said, you know, he said, even on that, he said, they give the tribal people the buffalo range. I said, do you realize that they took it from them to begin with? You know, a little history, you know, would really help a lot. So with that, I thank you all for being here and listening to us. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I want to thank you all for coming, and I'm glad they let you out of tribal jail. Did you guys bond out or what? You know, in regard to Public Law 280, we're going to strive to do the best we can, and for all of the people here, and look for solutions, and we will work with everybody. We're always looking for that, and we want the best solutions. So, you know, you may think that we have something good here, but we want it to be the best. And we want to make sure that for all of our citizens of the reservation, that we're offering the best services that we can. And so many of our activities are a result of addiction. And so it's not true criminals, it's people suffering. And so it's that whole template. How do we create a system that doesn't incarcerate people, but it rehabilitates them? It treats their symptoms. And it's what I see so often is just a form of craziness. We're just hitting ourselves head against the wall over and over again. And so anything that we do is going to be inclusive of a treatment to folks that are in trouble. And that's how we improve our system. And however we partner, we will, but we'll look at everything we have to do with Public Law 280 or retrocession or wherever it might be. And, you know, it'll be the best it can be. You know, at least as far as, you know, this tribal council is dedicated to that. And so, you know, we're not going to step into something that's going to go backwards. It's got to go forward. It's got to be an improvement. And so that's what we hope to do and we strive to do. So our doors are always open. We try to be inclusive as possible. And again, thank you for coming. And I wish you the best. And those of you that aren't returning to the next session, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service.
All right, thank you, appreciate it, and I guess we're gonna steal your chamber here for just a little bit. Next up on our agenda is public comment on anything, any matter within strict jurisdiction. Okay,
Okay, can I have Bing, Tom, Len, Carol all log off of your Zoom because we're gonna move into the back chambers. The rest we're gonna stay on because we're gonna go back there.
Okay. All right. So Toby McIntosh is on the call. Toby's our engineer from Jacola. And then I believe Brett Burke is also on the call. What we're here to present is an update regarding the Kicking Horse sewage treatment issue that we've been kind of addressing for the last few years. As you know, there are 3 wastewater lagoons out at Kicking Horse, and in 2020, we replaced the water and sewer mains because they were leaking terribly out at Kicking Horse. And EPA had directed us to dredge the lagoons and sleeve the sewer pipe that crosses the canal. Which is why we started contracting with Jacola in the first place, to redo those sewer mains and water mains and dredge the lagoons. So after we dredged, 2 of the lagoon cells looked fine, and they were put back online, but one of them, we found that the liner in the bottom of it was not complete. And so because of the concerns over that, we looked at some different solutions. They were all pretty expensive, and while we were looking at those solutions, we did some groundwater testing and found that the level of the groundwater in the vicinity of the lagoons is actually higher than the bottom of the lagoons. And we were able to find the old drawings for when the two newer lagoons were built. We were actually able to find the elevations, and we found that there was the potential for having contamination in the groundwater because the bottom of the lagoons was so low and kind of intersecting the water table. So we reviewed the report that Jacola provided, and they recommended we replace the lagoon system and do a master plan, which we did. We drafted a master plan last fall. There was one outstanding issue, and that was regarding the dorms. So what we did is we put a placeholder for 75 doer staff out at Kicking Horse, and then also a placeholder for 50 potential residents that might inhabit one of the dorms if we kept it as like for emergency housing for, firefighters or just for some residential purpose, not for apartments, but something similar to what had been out at Kicking Horse before. And then a few weeks ago, we presented a report to you about the dorms, basically saying that it's going to be really expensive to rehab those, millions of dollars. So in the meantime, we proceeded with
Janet?
Yes, sorry.
I have someone requesting, can you make your screen bigger so they can see it
I'm gonna try.
in the back of the room?
I'm gonna try. Here we go. How is that? Is that better? Can you see it?
Is that better, you guys in there? Lisa?
Yeah. Try 200.
I'll try 200, but when I get to the maps, I'll have to get smaller again.
Well, also
Uh-huh.
maximize your screen, Janet, up there in your right-hand corner, that little square.
It's almost, I mean,
But
let
then
me
you have
see.
to pull it with your arrows to make your screen bigger.
It's as big as I can get it, I think, at this point. Let me try to, oh, I can't go to.
No, just that, you're fine.
Okay, alrighty. Okay, so sorry, let me get back to, so on the next page, then we identified, COLA actually identified 3 sewage treatment options for the center. That included all of the projected use numbers that are included in the draft master plan. I attached a copy of their report to this agenda request a couple of weeks ago. The options range in cost from 3.5 million to 4.84 million. And that includes the design, bid, build, everything, plus a 15% contingency. I'm going to show you option 2, which is the least expensive option. Excuse me while I flip to that page. So this is where I have to make my screen smaller. Sorry. Let's see, I could try 100. Okay. So that option is over here. Here are the dorms where my cursor is. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So this would be the location of the sand mound system. So right now, all of the sewer pipes drain down to cross the canal here to enter this lagoon. And then what we'd have to do is put in a lift station here and pump the sewage to this treatment system And then the effluent would be pumped to a sand mound system, which is like a hill above the ground where the effluent would get treated. It would not be below the ground. If you want to look at the other options, Toby might be the best person to describe those for you. You can kind of see, this is where the sand mound is. Here's the dorms. Here's where everything would go to this lift station. And then from there across the canal. And then Toby, if you want to take over and kind of explain the two options here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Janet. I think the other option that's really on the table is option 3, which effectively developed the existing cell number 3 that you see kind of on the north part of all 3 lagoons. I guess, Janet, maybe you can point to that cell. Thank you. We effectively fill and raise that lagoon, put in a synthetic liner and use it for storage. So we would have a treatment system, then use the lagoon for just storage during the winter months, and then rely on the existing irrigation system, which is further to the west, which is effectively the dashed rectangle, green rectangle was the irrigation zone, and then the solid green rectangle is the buffer around it based on the original drawings. And that would rely on the existing irrigation system to do, the disposal, and the storage cell would really be just to store the effluent that's treated, whereas the old lagoon system was relying on the lagoons also for the treatment. So that's why there's 3 cells and it's a little bit larger. One thing to note is a little more extensive soil testing in the option 2 is being done. So I think Janet's council request discussed that there's some additional soil testing we're doing, and then that'll allow us to refine the viability of the option 2. And then option 1 at the time was trying to basically develop a sand mound over in the irrigation zone. I think as we reviewed some soil maps more closely in the original lagoon irrigation system drawings, we feel that that's the least viable.
That would involve a little bit more digging and the wildlife program, because this is part of that Kerr mitigation land. Even though this use is still active, Art Sokla, when he responded regarding wildlife concerns, he wanted the least amount of disturbance possible. So that was also another reason why this option was less favorable. He didn't want to see more soil disturbed because of worrying about weed seeds being brought into the area and disturbing the habitat. So, do you have any questions on these drawings before I go back to the narrative of the agenda request?
Any questions from council? Those, I guess, yeah, just a question I have is, does this option allow for further development? If we do anything different out there, will it accommodate future unexpected or unanticipated development out there?
Yes, it accommodates, let me zoom into this other page. It accommodates all of the housing here. So there are multiple housing lots. I wish I could scroll down just a little. There are multiple housing lots that can be developed out here. So it already includes development of those vacant lots. It includes development of one of these dorms for 50 people to live like in a dormitory style. It also accommodates 75 additional doer staff if they were to be located out here instead of Ronan, which is currently what council is planning to do, is locate doer in Ronan. But yes, so you'd be able to have 75 more staff out here plus 50 dormitory style residents. In addition to all of these lots being developed.
Janet, if you went to, there's the summary table and the report body that may help visually show at least what the
Oops,
sorry.
sorry. Ah,
Page 5 of our PDF.
oh, of your PDF, okay.
And that just summarized the flows that were presented. It basically summarized the users identified in the master plan to a daily flow based on effectively Montana DEQ flow numbers. So as Janet pointed out, there's the fitness center use, the employees working on site, which was identified as 173 people a day, 27 households at 300 gallons a day. The commercial kitchen had a component for meals, and that kind of fluctuated depending on the time of year, but we averaged that out to 350 meals a day. And then food washing was an agricultural component it's hard to quantify, and a lot of it will depend on how the space is actually used, but that added about 1,200 gallons a day. Even though that's a short-term use, we kind of have to account for it in our daily treatment flow. So that resulted in about just shy of 14,000 gallons a day for the base flow, and then another almost 25 or 2,400 gallons a day if you were to use one of the dorms for kind of an overnight housing. So I think the main thing is, if the system was sized based on that daily flow, it partly comes down to operating the facility to fit within those design parameters. And so those flows could vary based on uses. We just want to try and stay into that, under that flow number, if that makes sense.
Sorry if you couldn't see those numbers. Is this better? See if I can go to 200.
There you go. That's way better.
Okay.
Get one question, maybe this is a dumb question, probably is, but considering that all available land surrounding the Job Corps Center facility, did you look at the land to the south and the land to the north and the land to the east for the system replacement?
So I've looked at the land to the east. There are a lot of potholes in there. It's forested. There was an old dump site to the southeast. Let's see. I think across the road, did we talk about that, Toby? To the north, I know there are quite a few potholes in there too. There's the canal coming across. My mother-in-law used to live out there, and my niece and my brother-in-law and a couple of my brother-in-laws, and that's pothole country. I looked at it for home sites. It's really, I think we're really limited from what I could see. I don't know, Toby, what are your impressions?
Yeah, I think early on we talked about is the room off-site, and really based on the uses and I think some of the environmental concerns, we were kind of restricted to our existing Job Corps facility boundary. And then from my perspective, the irrigation area was brought into play because historically that's been used for that use. And so I know environmentally they're trying to minimize any impact out there. But that was, from my perspective, a spot that could be used, and that's why one of the options left the irrigation system in play. But straight to the south and east didn't get a lot of consideration, just based on feedback from the different kind of users that were involved in the master plan and some of the early discussions.
Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Janet and Toby and everyone else. What is the old practice field right kind of to the west of the baseball fields down there? It's just kind of that open field down there that used to move. I mean, is that too close to the canal? Is that the reason why that's not? I mean, that's just open. I don't.
Sorry, let me. The practice field over here. So we also have to be considerate of the we were told when we were working on the master plan not to develop this baseball field here. That people wanted to keep that here. And then also we have to be considerate of the potential or actually the planned cell tower that's going to be built in this area also. So we're basically trying to avoid that cell tower site. And then this is lower in elevation also. And I thought that might be an issue. Toby, didn't we look at that when we were looking at elevation?
Yeah, elevation's definitely it, and I know on the, I would say the outfield of the old ball field, to the east and then running to the south of the ball field is definitely a wet and low-lying area. So from a soil and separation to water was a concern.
And I'm not talking about the baseball field, I'm talking about, there's they called it the practice field, it was just to the southwest of the baseball field, it kind of looks like just a dirt pile that they used to move around. And I mean, I imagine the same issues there that, so if you went just to that area right there where your cursor is.
There's a lot of, isn't this like concrete that's been dumped out here, Lisa?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they moved heavy equipment, what they called the practice field, is to move the dirt and cement, and they dumped a lot of cement and big rocks in there.
Yeah, I think proximity to the canal and again being generally low lying and the wet area of the ball field I think certainly contributes. So there wasn't a lot of time looking at that portion of the site, just given topography and the other things we were looking at. Evaluate it.
Actually, holding these.
I think the other component that's a little bit of an unknown was just when the Kicking Horse Reservoir work takes place, the full pool elevation is higher than what it is today. And so I think there's a little uncertainty of exactly how that it would influence groundwater more directly adjacent to the canal.
Mm-hmm.
Or the existing lagoons for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
Question?
James, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So now as we look at this option, do we have any idea what the general infrastructure of all these buildings are to, ship this sewage to this new spot? I'm assuming there's probably some, I don't know, old pipes and old infrastructure for this system that probably needs to be updated or upgraded, something.
So Jim, we just replaced all of the sewer and water lines out here within the last 3 years.
Okay.
Utilizing CARES funding. We placed a couple of residences that the tribes purchased, a couple of modular trailers. And we also put in some new power hookups for all of these lots right here. So we've got meter pedestals already here for these lots. And then, like I said, all the sewer and water lines are brand new.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna, if there aren't any other questions, I'm gonna just go back to the narrative. So again, it's pretty expensive, the options that we're looking at. We were hoping it would come in at a little less, but this includes all of the design work, the 15% contingency that I mentioned, and then it will accommodate all of those additional uses as well as all of the existing uses. And we asked staff when we worked on the draft of the master plan to basically account for any projected increase in staff in the future, so that we're not just looking at current uses for all of the staff out there, we're looking at projected staff numbers. So again, we're looking at which option do you want us to pursue? I mean, option 2, that sand mound system in that little forested area south of the dorms, that is the least expensive. Or we could look at the other option that, would include, utilizing the irrigation system that we showed you earlier, but that's the most expensive. So that was the action request was, do you prefer that we, work on option 2 unless we find that the soil borings say it's not ideal?
Any suggestions?
Well, I guess my question is where are we gonna get the funding?
Where does the money come from?
So initially, if Dewar was going to be locating their new building out there, then we were told that Dewar funds could pay for the sewage treatment. Now, when I talked to Tony Incashola a couple of weeks ago, he said he still thought that because Dewar staff is still out there, that Dewar funds could possibly, or water compact funds could possibly pay for this, but that needs to be confirmed.
Yep, before you move. Right? Still the same.
Well, I'm not sure all the heavy equipment people are gonna be moving out of there. So the mound system, it goes into the south, into the trees. Okay.
What's the one that costs no money?
We just have that $1.4 billion available, and it certainly come out of that. Can we just have an IOU to somebody and someone put it in?
I'm thinking even with some of the housing out there, the compact does have for community water and sewer, so we should be able to still use some of that because of the housing that's out there, so, I mean, it's written into one of the uses. So even if Dewar wasn't there full-time, we would have some availability to tap into. I don't know how much, but we should be able to use some of it.
Was that after implementation?
Yep, that would be after.
Yeah.
It's 20 or 14.
There's our
It
IOU.
definitely qualifies for after, yeah.
But even if
Lawsuits are done.
we started while they were out there, would it qualify as before?
You're talking about, no, it qualifies if you're, the Dewar staff were there, and you're building a building, where you're actually paying for it out of the water compact.
Right.
Out of the implementation money. So the betterment money, so that's what you do, you'd spend betterment money on this also as part of that infrastructure. So squeeze as much of it as you can out of it. Yeah. But if you have the other money, the other part, the mitigation funds available, you could pay for it out of that too, but that's not gonna be available for another 8 years, probably 6 years, 4 years. So maybe you get some of it, since there are some Dewar staff stuff, you get some of it paid for. Any of it would be, isn't it? So. Yeah, Martin?
Well, Janet, Toby, what happens if we do nothing?
Well, we run the risk of those lagoons eventually the lining deteriorating and contaminating groundwater with the sewage. And Toby, please add to that if you have any other comments.
I guess I know there's, I don't know if we confirmed during our recent work if effluent's still being diverted away from cell number 3 or not. In the 23 lagoon report, there is a boring to the north of cell number 3 that showed the water level being, I think it was about 4.5 feet above the bottom of the cell. And so what we were drawing for a conclusion is that the old clay liner was reasonably impervious to where it wasn't allowing the water to totally stabilize in the area in the lagoon cell itself, but the bottom liner was just totally saturated. So I'm not sure from a oversight with the EPA what all has or has not happened. I think it's like Janet said, there's, you know, felt pretty confident that the lagoons were obviously old and they were located within the groundwater, and not something that you would certainly be permitting as it is today. So from a system standpoint, I guess I haven't been involved operationally how things have been working since they were dredged and we did our reporting on cell number 3.
But again, cell number 3 is offline, so, I don't know, Lisa, do you have any comments on that?
I don't, I'm not sure. I know we send our reports to EPA, but I don't know that they've actually come out and done anything. I know John takes pictures of everything and sent it off to them for out there.
Mhm. Is Evan on this call?
And Chauncey hasn't said anything either.
Okay.
I think Chauncey's on, isn't
There's Chauncey.
Yeah, I'm here. We're basically grandfathered in until EPA shuts us down.
So this is a non-discharging facility, which means they don't have to collect water quality data every month or every time they discharge. But they do have to, satisfy the requirements with EPA as far as getting on that general permit. And that's issued yearly. So that covers the whole year. So those documents and that information comes from John, and he has the EPA contact within Region 8. So I believe he has to satisfy those requirements before they issue that permit to CSKT.
The only other issue is if we wait too long, prices are going to continue to go up because that's what we've been seeing with everything. Materials, construction costs, everything. So that's just a factor to keep in mind.
The other thing I think, Janet, that it's hard to capture in here, but there could be some ability to look at scaling and phasing based on build out and use at the center. I don't think you'd be looking at scaling back the tanks on the treatment side because those are hard to just expand or add in the future. But between the sand mound and your some of the number of filter pods, I mean, there would be a way to defer some of the cost. I think to Jan's point, some of that may add in the long run, but maybe helps make it more palatable, realizing that it is an expensive system. So
Preferred. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
So if this was approved today, when would it go out for bid?
Well, we'd first need to develop an RFP, and so Toby hopefully can help us with that. And so the timing would be based on when we can send the RFP out. So what are you thinking, Toby?
I was waiting for it. So like we mentioned, Kagan was going to do some specific monitoring wells, and I would like to have that work, I think, done before you put any sort of RFP out. I was waiting for exact timing from him on when that would occur. I think in terms of developing an RFP, some of that legwork can be done in kind of parallel to that effort from Kagan. And then I think in terms of, I guess an area where we've been talking is exactly who or what is the permitting authority. And so it sounded like there wasn't a lot in terms of the requirement to go to the EPA or any of the other entities. So I think from a timing perspective, you know, you'd be looking to put out an RFP. I would think you're, you know, at least a month from an RFP going out, go through the selection process. The formal design being kind of fall, winter months. And so, you know, your best case scenario would be trying to bid it with a summer of 25 construction start, I think. I think if it goes, there's probably a discussion with the EPA from Evan's side or John or Chauncey, whoever the right person is. I think once, you know, once it's, the wheels are in motion.
Yeah, I think there has to be a notification with EPA from the operator, which is John. And then that next steps, you know, kind of going through that process. I'm not totally sure about how long that'll take, but there is a process that they have to go through.
And I guess I am not aware if, what I don't know, I guess, is if the EPA knows that this, you know, the PER and this work has been happening. So that's something I guess I can't speak to. So it may be prudent before getting too far down the road, if the intent is to go this route, is at least have that notification to the EPA. So that if there are some concerns or issues on their end, that they're addressed early.
They are aware right now. I guess they're kind of just waiting for that notification to come down from the operator, when the timeline is and you know, what the actual design would be.
Okay.
One question that I had, I guess, for council is, would you like to approve, so Jacola's contract actually expired the end of July. So, would you like to approve, I guess, a non-competitive contract with Jacola to work on discussions with EPA and pursuing further design? We might not put it out for bid yet, but you know, pending funding, but it seems like maybe we need to have more information for EPA. And again, because Chapola's contract has expired, and they have the most experience with this particular project. I guess I'd like to ask for a non-competitive contract to, you know, help pay for their costs for continuing to work with us on this project.
That does make sense. And so when we're talking about option 2, that's the 3.5 million.
Right, let's see, I better go up to the, yes, 3.5. But what we could do is, so in the interim, the contract with Jacola, I think when we were talking about, that would be 10% of this cost. And for the design and on construction oversight and any other, and was there anything else included in that, Toby?
I think it was the placeholder for basically design, some of the sub-consultants, you know, any additional survey if needed. And then, yeah, the construction, contracting, administration oversight. And I think that, you know, regardless of the path forward, I think getting that additional testing from Alpine Geotechnical, and then taking that next step to maybe communicate with the EPA and just make sure that the option that's being moved forward with is viable from the regulatory side, as well as just the expanded soil info. I think that would give you a more solid ground to say, okay, now we need to go to a competitive bidding or design process, or, you know, continue with Jacola. I guess that's a decision that could be made. But that may be a better line in the sand to draw, with regulatory feedback from the EPA. If that makes sense.
Janet, question.
Yes.
Do you have the funding in your budget for the contract with Jacola?
So what Greg had told me is he was using, let's see, I've got to look at the name of he was calling it the Kicking Horse Biosolids Removal. It was, program 3753. I don't know if that was, some of the sewer and water funding that was coming out of some previous funding that CSKT had. But that's what we were paying Jacola's contract under.
Okay. All right, thank you.
So, okay, I'm not sure how much is left in that, but we could check with Greg.
Lisa, do you have a recommendation?
We're gonna move forward. I think option 2 is a good option. Just kind of thinking while we're sitting here, if we're able to start working in 25, I wonder if any of the ARPA funds would be available for that.
The ARPA funds have to be obligated by the end of December of this year for whatever project that qualifies for it.
So they'd have to be done with design plans by then.
No, you just gotta obligate it. You can spend into you just gotta say this is where it's going, and you don't spend it, you lose it. So, doesn't have to be spent by, has to be obligated by the end of December. That's my understanding of it.
Yeah, I think if we can figure out the funding, then it would be good to move forward, just because I don't know how long those other lagoons are gonna stand, and then with the water level, we're being told that it's going higher, so we could end up having a potential problem with our existing lagoons over time.
Is there any advantage to us to have that canal piped in the interim? Does that affect the groundwater? Is there's money for piping?
We got lots of pipe.
I wonder if, I guess my initial thought on the piping of the canal is that if I remember correctly, the full pool of the reservoir project was putting the water elevation about to the crossing with Molman Pass Road. I think if that were to be discussed, we'd probably want to visit with, you know, someone like Seth Makepeace that's got pretty good.
It doesn't do that. I've never seen any plans to do that. No, that's, no, it doesn't back up to the Moment Pass Trail Road, no.
Yeah.
Not that I know of. Never.
I've never seen it being.
The wetland perimeter of that Kicking Horse reservoir doesn't have that in it.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
The easement, it doesn't.
And I was going off a map that was shared with us during back in 2023, so something certainly could have changed along the way. So I can't speak to exactly if that data has changed over time, but
I don't know. That'd be.
Maybe it was when the culvert was failing, the county did something crazy. 2x4s.
Maybe. So it does make sense to me also that to do what you're suggesting as far as kind of a separate contract, is to get more details on what we need to actually put out for bid. That does make sense also. It may be premature to go after it all right now, but
If we can phase it, then maybe we can figure out how to get the funding along the way.
yeah, so our immediate need would be to Jacola do a continuation to do that, and then based on that information, then the final design would be a second contract that we bid out, or sole source to Jacola. I don't know.
Or we could modify Jacola's contract if you wanted to do that.
Right. So to do that stepwise, how much would the expired, well, the sole source contract, how much would it have to be for the immediate need? So if we were looking for money.
I think if we're going through, so taking the additional data and then taking this plan and the recommendation to the EPA and having those discussions, I think I would probably want to sit down and just say, I think something like that, because we're not sure exactly how the discussions will go, is maybe put a not to exceed amount on that and just bill on a time and material basis to it. And just if we approach that limit, we could certainly discuss with, Janet and everybody, but dollar amount wise, I think there was gonna be, based on our last billing, about $9,000 remaining on the contract that we were gonna do a contract mod back to the tribe on. So I think you could say, I would like to think if you're going back and forth with EPA and all the stakeholders on our side, that a lot of it should be communications and meetings and just, maybe that fits under a $20,000 cap and we just monitor as we go. But I'm just kind of shooting from the hip on that right now.
Actually, it sounds pretty reasonable to me, Toby. Yeah, it could be off, but that's a good start. That would be at this time would be not to exceed 20,000 to finish up this EPA consultation and whatever other details we need to go to final bid and construction. Is that right, Janet? Would that work then?
Yes, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't approve or take any option without knowing where the funding's coming from.
Oh, yeah, the money,
So I mean, the 20,000, I'm fine with.
Yeah. Well, the big money, right, yeah.
Making a decision now, I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, the 20,000, it's like, oh, okay, we need to come up with another 11,000 to do that. Probably pretty easy. Yeah, the 4 million, I don't know.
Yeah.
3.5 to 4.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could you also maybe put in your action to maybe have Greg Spar or other staff work to find the potential funding for replacement of the system? So, we've got a range. If we could start looking at least to see and a timeline for when that funding would be available.
They have to pay for any bus study.
Well, it's EPA, you're dealing with EPA, and I guess going into the new ground, the forest line there where the mound system will go in, that's new disturbance, so there's I guess there's a NEPA and cultural clearance.
Stop all trees stuff up there. Sure.
ESA,
Yeah.
it's grizzly bear habitat, that's ESA thing.
It is within the fenced area of the Job Corps Center property,
So
though.
it's already in a disturbed area?
Well, it's not disturbed, though. It's forested, so that's the only thing, is it's a very small parcel, but it is within the compound, the
Okay.
Corps compound.
Well, that helps a whole bunch, because then it's already, you basically call it Cat X, other than whatever EPA's,
And if the funding is coming from the tribes, and I don't know if you consider that federal funding, then that would trigger probably, it might trigger an EA, but I think it could be a fairly simple EA.
It would be a Cat X, if you're already in the perimeter of it's already been dedicated for the purpose of Job Corps.
Right, and that area is not leased, so it
Right.
wouldn't trigger a BIA decision.
It's already within the yard. It's in the playground.
Yeah.
Just a new facility playground.
Cut down.
So we would need a motion to do the sole source with Jacola for the, continuation of the sewer lagoon system.
Sure, I'd make that motion.
With the, additional requirement of our budget. Folks, we'll just say Lisa, we'll say Lisa, she's in the room. Lisa finding, available funding sources for the full requirements of a sewer system replacement. Is that it? Whatever it is. Septic.
Sounds good. Sewer's good.
Is that your motion, Martin?
That
Close enough?
sounds like.
Within, so we need like at least 2 months? 2 months, 2 months out, talking about October 1st? Does that work?
The one wild card I would say is if the EPA goes into a review cycle that we can't really predict.
No, yeah.
I think it was, yeah, my initial thought on timing there was if we was going, I think, for the RFP for the full design, but if we're wanting that EPA regulatory impact input, I think 2 months would be a little quick. Maybe Chauncey has a different sense.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Well, I was just looking for finding the money within 2 months, maybe, an idea.
End of the fiscal year.
Yeah, into the fiscal year. But yeah, understanding that, yeah, there could be a lot of complications for getting the final done out there with all the players and considerations. So that would be just basically the contract with the COLA would be non-competitive, not to exceed $20,000 for the continuation of site planning or whatever you call it, the design, initial design, discussions and consultations. That's already been a long day. Is that good enough? Maybe Abby can straighten it out.
I can help wordsmith it too with Abby.
Yeah, go ahead, Chauncey.
And really quick, John Nice just put in a Sager system into the Woodcock Lagoon system that it does discharge, so he might have an idea of how long this will take.
Well, we got a motion by Martin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Len. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Why not?
He made it. He second. All right.
Okay, well,
Think
thank you
it's
so much.
moving.
Yeah, we're moving. Thank you. I appreciate it. And Toby, I'll put in the contract November 1st, if that sounds more reasonable. And then, and then we can continue to, like, if we have to modify it again, we'll do that. So.
Okay, sounds good. I appreciate everyone's time.